from the beginning.
And I was shown that that Lucifer would return, that the UN and the Vatican were going to be completely behind it, again, under false pretenses. He's going to show up and say, I'm here to save the day, right? And, okay, fine, you know.
Yeah, of course,
ahead,
you can say whatever you want. But I've always hated censorship. It's the internet.
Sometimes, you know, once they get you for your first love bite, well, it depends on how aware you are, right?
I forgot my bullets. I never had a gun. Here I am left standing. Am I the only one? For what I see, memories have guilted me. I'll never see the sun.
First of all, as you know, the Anunnaki and the Draco are enemies. Second of all, underneath Baghdad was a stargate that was created by the Anunnaki so that they could transfer from Jupiter to the Earth.
I'll never see the sun. I could just end it all, but the demons will have won.
Magical practitioners that, you know, some are good and some use their magic for good and to heal and to help, and others do use it for evil. And, you know, in some cases, you know, people really were
This is too much sometimes. From the broken ruins of Babylon, this is End of Days Radio. Hello, everybody. I am your host, Daniel, broadcasting to you all the way from the shimmering Emerald City right here in the heart of the Pacific Northwest. Today's date is May 16th, 2018. Today's guest is Reverend John Polk. Reverend John Polk is a metaphysical minister, medium, channeler, and Reiki Master. He works with ArchAngels, Ascended Masters, as well as his guides, to manifest the most accurate readings that you desire. As a UFO Contactee, he counsels those with similar experiences and provides them with answers that enable them to have full and rich lives. Serving as a conduit for the universal God consciousness, his meditative and energy healing techniques are highly sought after for raising your vibration and frequency. Reverend Polk was recently employed as a medium, counselor, and spiritual healer in Sedona, Arizona. So we will be talking to him. And remember to stay tuned after the break for our wrap-up section of our show. But enough wasting time. Let's go ahead and give our new friend a call. Let's see here. Hello, Reverend. Are you there?
I am here.
Ha ha ha, we tricked everybody. For once I didn't sit here and dial the phone. You were already on the line.
That's right. I'm omnipotent, which means I'm in all places simultaneously, just like you are.
If only I would have thought of that idea 6 years ago when I started the show.
Well, I mean, you can always adapt it into your doctrine. So let's get going, brother.
All right. So first thing I always like to do is just to start things off. How are you doing? What is new in your world?
What is new in my world? I was working as a medium in Sedona, Arizona, for a number of months, and I was drawing a lot of attention. And anybody that knows me personally knows that I'm a UFO magnet. I have over 30 plus witnesses / friends that have been with me at UFO conferences and other case scenarios where we saw UFOs together. And when I was in Sedona, I started to draw a lot of attention, and there's a huge dark presence in Sedona as far as the Miilabs, which are the military labs. So who do the Miilabs target as far as people they go after to abduct? They go after alien abductees. And as I am an alien abductee, and I have been my whole life, I was an easy target for them. And the Miilabs, the military labs, were starting to abduct me and do some violent procedures on me that would provoke bleeding from certain parts of my body because of them having to do invasive procedures to implant me for all kinds of purposes, mind control, tracking devices, other things, also the harvesting program that's going on this planet, etc., taking specimen genetic samples from me, to the point where I got so freaked out by it. I had this UFO literally following me around, and it allowed me, Daniel, to take videos and photos of it. It was almost like they were rubbing my nose in it. And it got to the point where it scared me so bad that I moved back to Florida, which is where I'm originally from.
Oh my, yeah. During my one famous UFO experience, I've had a few sightings, but I had the one experience where the UFO was stalking me, and I really felt like it was trying to get its foot in the door to get me to interact with it. Sounds like you were going through something similar. The damn thing was stalking you.
It was. I didn't realize you had a similar experience, but
not quite similar to that, because they actually took you somewhere and did things to you. And I mean, I definitely sympathize with you, but it didn't go that far with me. But I know many other people out there. The aliens are much more into their lives, and as much as it kind of hurts that I didn't get to see an alien, I'm kind of glad.
But you know what? You're more than likely, and I'm feeling it right now, that you're more than likely implanted or chipped just like I am, but you just don't remember it because they can clean slate you and blank you. It's pretty amazing with the technology that they do, that they're able to basically erase your mind from. Let's take a 3-hour time period, and let's say at the 1 hour and 35 mark to the 2-hour point, which is 25 minutes. They can take you on a scout ship, abduct you. It doesn't take that long. Take whatever material they need from you or whatever they're going to do, implant you, whatever, and then put you right back in the timeline, and you don't remember anything. So how do they blank you during that time period? But you remember everything before and you remember everything after, but that one chunk of time you don't remember. And it's very common in the abduction scenario.
Yeah, I know that. Well, first off, that's very possible. I've suspected that myself many times, and who really knows what they're doing with some of these other medical procedures? They might be seriously messing up or altering our bodies or our minds, and how would we even know?
It's a good, brilliant point you bring up. We won't know unless we can start to re-examine ourselves by taking a step backward and try to dig into our own subconscious mind and do what I call pop your alien memory cap. Pop it. The number one thing is to know that it has happened to you. And if you don't know that it's happened to you, it would never enter your mind to even try to pop your alien memory cap. But if you know that it has happened to you, then it's on your radar, and then you can dig into your own quantum hologram matrix and find it within yourself. And it will slowly start to bleed out with tiny little clips, almost like from a movie or something. And then those little movie clips will turn into a movie montage, and then they'll eventually turn into a movie trailer if you know how to dig into your subconscious and traverse your body, mind, spirit like that. And that's something that I've learned how to do and that I teach people also as a medium.
And how did this, well, let's rewind a little bit. Where did you grow up? What was your childhood like?
Another good question. My parents were rich. I grew up in $1 million condominium on the ocean in Daytona Beach, Florida. And that's where I remember, let's use the key term, remember, my abductions beginning. But through hypnotic regression therapy, which I've had done multiple times, it turned out that I was abducted while my mother was pregnant with me in the womb. And this is interesting, is that I was in the womb for 10 months. My mom was almost 5 weeks late having me, which today they'll induce the labor. They won't let a pregnancy go that long. There's a lot of health complications involved, and it's risky. But back in the day, they would. And it turned out through regression therapy that I was abducted. And I heard you mention, not you, but in the credits before the show started talking about the Anunnaki, that I was abducted by the Anunnaki while my mom was pregnant with me, and that they added genetics to me while I was in the womb. And that's why it took over 10 months for me to incubate and come into this world.
So it sounds like you were born a month late.
I was, and so was my brother. So it happened to both of us.
And this is something that I've become aware of, throughout the years, being super into this stuff. It seems that there's a heavy focus on genetics and altering of the genetics of humans, and geez, who knows why? It's very strange.
It is. It's not part of an experiment. It's part of a program that's been going on for thousands and thousands of years. And are you familiar with James Gilliland? James Gilliland?
That name, it sounds strikingly familiar, but you're going to have to refresh my memory.
So he owns what you call the E-SETI Ranch, which is in southern Washington state.
Okay.
It's basically pretty much due north of Mount Shasta. And this mountain, Mount Adams, which is right off of his ranch, he literally charges people to fly in from around the country and around the world to stay on his property. And he's got basically a hotel on his property with a conference hall and a mess hall all contained in one big building. And he charges people to fly in from all over the country and all over the world. And he tells them, please bring all of your video cameras, all your technology, because you will see UFOs. And I want you to get videos of it. Anyway, when I was living in Sedona, even just a couple months ago, he was doing a conference where he was the keynote speaker and I was the MC of the conference. And he stayed at the house that I was living in at the time. And right after he left, I got abducted. And he sent me a text the day after it actually happened and told me, hey, man, you just got abducted. And these kind of things have been going on for a long time. But whenever I'm around people that are UFO magnets, the activity increases tenfold.
It seems like people that have these types of experiences, when they come in contact with each other, I can only imagine it is going to complicate whatever agendas these aliens have with each individual.
Yeah, absolutely. And so he was on my show a couple weeks ago, and he's like, I know this may sound messed up, but the fact that you were abducted means that you have certain genetics that they covet, that they're looking for in this hybridization harvesting program. So yes, we are earthlings. We do have free will. But we're also part of another matrix that we don't understand, where we are used as a breeding program to populate other worlds around this solar system, around the Milky Way galaxy, Andromeda, our neighboring galaxy, and around the cosmos. And it's a very active program where this little blue dot that is, 70% water, we're so fertile, and we're exactly what they're looking for in this hybrid and harvesting program.
Do you happen to know if there's other Earths set up somewhere where they farm people off of?
Yeah, absolutely. If you look at Orion, okay, you'll see the obvious belt the two stars, and then the third one offset, which is mirrored by the Giza Plateau and other places around the world, like in Mexico and in England and other places like that, where they have these megalithic structures on geodetic markers all around the country, all around the world. But once you get past those three belt stars, it's an area called M42, and it is basically a nursery for new stars. And NASA and Kepler and Hubble spend a lot of time studying this area because it's in the Goldilocks zone, which means it's not too hot, it's not too cold, it's in a perfect area from a star. In other words, a star actually means sun, which we all get wrong when we look up at the stars. And it's a huge fertile ground for these worlds to be able to spawn life. And it is coveted by the Anunnaki and all of the other extraterrestrial races that have been pioneering this whole harvesting program for millions and even billions of years.
Is this the Reptilians?
They're definitely a huge part of it. Yeah, they're definitely a huge part of it. And I listened in the opening credits how it said the Anunnaki and the Reptilians are at war against each other, but actually the Anunnaki are definitely part reptilian.
Okay,
also.
that was my next question I was going to ask, because as I'm sure you're probably aware, and a lot of the listeners out there are aware, David Icke, he says that the Anunnaki were the Reptilians, and he shows a lot of pictures of them depicted as reptilian.
They are, and they're master geneticists. They are, and they're also shapeshifters. And unfortunately, I'd asked you what you wanted to talk about, and you were like, the current state of affairs right now. And what is happening is our third dimensional planet, Earth, is morphing into the fourth dimension. And the fourth dimension, it's a shape-shifting kind of dimension. We're going from light to dark back to light again. And that's where we are right now. So the current state of affairs, if you look at the political climate around the planet right now, everything's in a state of entropy. Seems like everything's falling apart. Our world leaders, we have no confidence in them anymore. We don't trust them anymore. So as above, so below. So if what is happening on Earth is happening, which it is, what is happening in the cosmos? They're going through the same thing. But let's extrapolate that exponentially. So if we have all this turmoil on our planet right now, what is the cosmos going through right now? And unfortunately, we're stuck in the middle of this metamorphosis going from dimension to dimension, and the planet is definitely a huge part of it.
Well, hey, since we're on this subject, let me throw something at you.
Yeah.
So, I'm sure you are probably aware of, I like to talk about the end of days, and one of the biggest things in the book of Revelations or end of days, things like that, is the idea of, it's called the mark of the beast, and back in the early 90s, late 80s, people thought it would be like a barcode or something like that, but now in this modern age with the nanotechnology and the RFIDs and stuff like that, I'm wondering if somehow this could be linked or related to the chips, or not the chips, but the implants the aliens are putting in people. Do you think that's a possibility, or any thoughts on that?
Absolutely, man. You nailed it, brother. So the chemtrails, and they are very, very real. A lot of older people are like, oh, they're just wispy clouds. Every meteorologist at every TV station in America and most parts of the world, they're in on it. They know it. They're not stupid. They know that they're not clouds. But the barium, strontium, aluminum, and other particulate matter that is in these chemtrails, we breathe it in all day long. and it's something that is really not talked about. It also absorbs through our skin topically. As if you put a lotion on your skin, you're going to absorb every chemical in the lotion on your skin. It absorbs into our bloodstream. It metabolizes into our blood, and it, in effect, is changing our biochemistry and our physiology and our DNA. Now, why? It's all part of the mind control. It's a very old technology that's been going on for a long time, and now they're even using what you call aqueous chemtrails, and you can't see it. It's invisible, but it's even more powerful than the ones that you can see. And this plays into computers. There's these master computers that they have on the moon, in Antarctica, and in Arctic. We are all tied into these computers. We don't know it. It's all part of the mind control. They're using what you call radionics, psychotronics, and ELF waves to control us. And it's very old technology. Even the fluoride in the water, everything is used to control us. And they're deliberately trying to change our DNA to more of a crystalline structure, which I'm sure you've heard of also. And quartzite, which is crystal, is used in computers. Why? Because it's a absolute perfect conductor of information. Also, it's a massive information storage kind of facility within the properties of these stones. And this is all being used to control us, to morph into this new dimension. But because we have consciousness and we do have free will, and more than anything else, we have each other. The most important race on this planet is the human race, which we are all a part of. And if we can all just come to terms with the fact that we all come from the same creator, God in the Bible is an alien, we all come from source, which goes way beyond this little blue dot in the Milky Way galaxy. If we can all come to terms with that, we can all unite and defeat this power that is trying to take over our planet.
Do you believe in a human Illuminati?
I believe in a human alien, let's say a human Draco Reptilian hybrid Illuminati. The Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the Clintons, the Bushes, Trump, Obama, even Putin, the leader of North Korea, leaders of China. They are all Draco human reptilian hybrids that are into Pizzagate and that whole sickness. And why? Why would they even do that? Because in order to be recognized by the A circle of the Draco, you have to do the rituals. I mean, you can't be a Mason, be a Freemason without going through the rituals. You won't even be accepted. So if you want to be accepted into the A circle of the elite ruling class that rules this planet, you have to subscribe to the Reptilian Draco agenda, which is the whole Pizzagate thing, which I don't like to talk about too much, but it's a huge part of it.
What's funny is I've been hearing about these underground bases, undersea bases, and things like that, and I've always had this strong intuitive type of feeling that the UFO I saw must have come from one of them. It must have come from under the sea or under the ground or maybe from the dark side of the moon. Who knows? But I definitely believe in these bases.
Oh, they're very real. They're very real. And I'll tell you what, we would have, not we, but the powers that be would have destroyed this planet decades ago if it wasn't for some kind of galactic federation stepping in and not allowing it to happen. Why? Because there are so many portals, there are so many stargates in this planet that allow ET to traverse from one dimension to another. And they need this planet for their method of transformation and transportation. So this planet is so important to ET. Also, if you remove this planet, it throws off the kilter of all of the other planets in the solar system and throws off the gates. The gates are so important to ET. That's why we have not destroyed this planet through nuclear war. And thank God, if it wasn't for them, this planet would have been destroyed a long time ago.
I've heard a little bit about these stargates and portals. I've even heard a conspiracy theory that the Iraq war, one of them, both of them, who knows, obviously it wasn't about weapons of mass destruction. Everybody has their theories. It was about oil, controlling the Middle East, blah, blah, blah. But then there's that theory that it was all about securing these stargates. What do you think of that?
I agree with you totally. So you've heard the phrase, all roads lead to Baghdad. Well, why would they lead to Baghdad? Because that's where the Stargate was. Bush and the gang knew it and know it, and they wanted to take control of it. So why not conjure up a war? Plus, all the defense contractors make billions of dollars off of wars. I mean, that's why we have most of the wars anyway, so that the defense contractors can get rich. But yeah, you're completely correct. He who controls the gates controls the planet.
As a big fan of Zecharia Sitchin, I mean, I know that he's not right about everything. I've heard all the arguments, and obviously I'm very into this stuff. But a big part of his books is these, just like what you're talking about, that these Anunnaki were spending a great deal of time. He didn't call them portals because either he was too nuts and bolts or et cetera, but he would talk about them fighting over like the landing pads and where the ships land and stuff like that. But it makes a lot more sense if it's like you're saying, and back then they were actually fighting over these portals.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, he who controls the gates controls the planets. And so let's extrapolate that. So where do these gates go to? They go to extra dimensional realms. You know, they're not just traveling from the third dimension to the third dimension. They're traveling between dimensions in what I have created the term transdimensional space-time vehicles. And they can do it. You've heard of the jump rooms, made famous by Andrew Basiago and other time travelers. I don't know if you've heard about it. A.R. Borden. Anyway, there's such a thing as called jump rooms, which is basically this technology that allows you to traverse your body, mind, spirit, and morph from one reality to another reality, and in effect travel through time and space. But these are so incredibly important and powerful. And there's also gatekeepers. And I know that myself in another dimension, because we all live in what you call the quantum hologram matrix. We all live in a multi-dimensional existence simultaneously within ourselves. So I don't just live as a human in the third dimension. I don't just live as a Pleiadian in the fifth dimension. I don't just live as an Arcturian in the seventh dimension, or even an Archangel in the 12th. I live in all dimensions simultaneously, but to be able to move my physical body from one dimension to another, it requires a gate. And these gates are so important, and they're all over this planet. And the number one reason they're all over this planet is because this planet is so alive. And water, the fact that this planet is abundant with water, makes it so alive and so rich and so powerful. And it makes the gates even more powerful and easily accessible to traverse through.
Are there any gates in the United States?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of them on the terrestrial soil. Like, for example, when I lived in Sedona is a gate. I was at Contact in the Desert last year, May of last year. I don't know if you've ever been there before, but it's perhaps the biggest and the best UFO conference in the world every year. There was over 80 plus UFO sightings that were reported to MUFON. in Joshua Tree, California. Joshua Tree, California is a portal also. And there's other portals, especially all through the desert Southwest. And, California's full of them. But then there's Mount Shasta, which is a gate itself. I believe you have to go subterranean to get through that gate. And then also Mount Adams, where James Gilland owns the Esetti Ranch I was telling you about. These are all gates. And then Alaska is a monster gate. There's a gate at the South Pole in Antarctica. They're all over this planet, and they are so important to ET because, like I was saying before, ET uses these gates to traverse from one dimension to another dimension.
That definitely it brings up a possibility in my mind, and of course I have read this before in the various things that I've read online in forums and articles and stuff. But what if the underground bases, what if they're connected to tunnel networks that lead to these portals, or the underwater ones might, or et cetera, et cetera? They might be down there because they're connected to one of these portals.
Man, you are nailing it with the questions, brother. I tell you what. So, you've heard of Xibalba? I don't know if you've heard of Xibalba.
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Xibalba is the Mayan underworld. Xibalba spelt with an X, okay? So what does Xibalba literally translate into? It translates into the Milky Way. So the underworld is the Milky Way. But what it means to me, so let's say you're an engineering firm and you're there to mine precious ores from the earth, and you have these drills. Well, if you're going to drill into the earth a few miles, you're just going to run into a bunch of rocks and perhaps water, whatever. But if you know how to traverse the body, mind, and spirit of this planet, which our planet definitely has a body, a mind, and a spirit, just like we do, then you can traverse into extra dimensional realms.
Oh, wow.
So by going into these cenotes, you ever heard of a cenote?
No.
A cenote is like, especially in Mesoamerica, Central America, South America, Mexico, you'll come across these kind of caves, and then they'll have water, and you go into the water and you go down maybe a few hundred feet, and then the water will change. You can see the water change from clear to brackish, and somewhere within that division, there's a way to traverse the planet. Now, I can't tell you scientifically or spiritually how to do it, but I'll tell you what, the Maya knew how to do it. And the lid on Lord Bakal's sarcophagus, showing him going in, or he was basically in a rocket ship. He was literally going underground to go into outer space.
Oh, wow. That is interesting indeed.
Yeah, it is.
It kind of makes you think a little bit of like the flat Earth stuff too, like what really is out there? Is the Milky Way, or are we looking at something that's completely different than what we might think?
It's interesting because I lived in Florida my whole life, and then I moved out to Sedona, Arizona in August of last year. And on my way, I stopped at one of my cousin's houses in Texas, and he lives on this 100-foot cliff overlooking this beautiful water basin and has this system of docks. And we're outside and we see all these shooting stars. And he's like, man, I've never seen so many shooting stars in my life. And I've lived here for 12 years. Why do you think it's happening? I'm like, well, it's because I'm here. But I look up and I'm like, it's kind of weird, man. It's perfectly clear, but there's like this, like this milky kind of stream of clouds going right through the sky. He's like, dude, that's the Milky Way. And I had never seen it before. There's so much light pollution in Florida. You're just not going to see it. But the Milky Way is full of gateways to other extra dimensional realms as well.
Yeah, this is extremely interesting. It just really makes you wonder because a lot of the things in the Bible where an angel comes down and talks to somebody or something like that happens, it does almost sound like whatever it is coming through some sort of portal.
It can be, and a good point you bring up again. So now let's think of it like this. Was the angel coming to me in physical form an angel? Or was it an extraterrestrial misinterpreted as an angel? And or am I vibrating at such a high frequency that I'm looking into higher dimensions just because of the way I'm resonating with the universe? You see what I'm saying? So maybe I saw something in the fifth dimension from the third dimension because I vibrated higher frequency than most other people, and or maybe this being, this sentient conscious being, came to me wanting me to acknowledge it as a third dimensional being now taking on a physical form. I don't know. But there's all these case scenarios, and I believe that they all could be true.
Yeah, it definitely makes you think. And what's interesting is they say that even the reptilians, they're like fourth dimensional, but they can be physical, and then other times they're kind of in a higher dimension than us, and it's hard for us to perceive them because they can change their vibration or do something to make themselves invisible or move themselves into a different dimension.
Absolutely, and that's a big part of what the fourth dimension is. And unfortunately, the powers that be know how to use those properties and characteristics of the fourth dimension for dark purposes. For example, they could be using this for benevolent purposes, but they're using it just to make money and off of control over us. But now we have to think like this, is that since the planet is moving into the fourth dimension, so are we. So now it's within the realm of possibility, and I can do this myself and I can teach people how to do it, is that we should be of the mind that we can traverse our body, mind, spirit into a higher dimension. And we can be the shapeshifters. We can take advantage of the fourth dimension. And if you do it for the dark, guess what? You're going to have more results, and you're going to have the results much more quickly come to you. If you do it for the purposes of light and love, it takes longer. But guess what? The reward on the back end is so much more powerful. You go to the dark, you get easy rewards quick, but you pay for it bad on the back end. You go to the light, you often struggle and suffer more, but on the back end, it comes back to you in kudos.
I would have to definitely agree with you on that. It's hard for me to talk about some things on this program sometimes simply because some things are just so very weird and unbelievable and almost a little embarrassing, but I've seen enough. I've seen some things that were strange enough to make me fully believe in what you're saying. I do believe that people can shapeshift and do other things as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's all about intention. So what are your intentions? I pray every day, and I pray for myself. It's not wrong to pray for yourself, but I tell you what, one of the most important and most powerful parts of prayer is to pray for people that you don't know and those that are of the greatest need. And I pray that I can be in positions to help people like this. And I do. And the more I pray about it, the more it happens. So for an example, I was in Sedona for 9 months. I got to MC 4 different UFO conferences, work as a medium for a number of months. I moved back because of the reptilians. Basically, it was awful what they were doing to me, bleeding involved, invasive procedures for what you would call a coccyx implant, which comes in through your rectum, where they implant you through the posterior tip of of your spine for mind control purposes. But the whole thing is that they failed, because I still have my own peace of mind and they're not controlling me. Although I did move away from there back to Florida to get away from this. But I take that experience with me to try and help other people. And so coming up this weekend, there's the Consciousness 2.0 Metaphysical Fair in Orlando, where I'm going to be one of the speakers. And one of my good friends, his name is Brad Olson. I don't know if you know Brad Olson or not, but he's been a speaker at Contact in the Desert for a number of years. He's going to be our keynote speaker. And that's going to be May 19th and 20th, this Saturday and Sunday. And I'm going to be one of the speakers there. I'm also going to be doing readings as a medium. But the most important thing about it is that I'm going to be able to share this information and a lot of these concepts of love and oneness to try and bring us all back together as the one cohesive unit that we have all been fragmented away from.
Yeah, there's one thing that I think anybody could do if they really want to prove to themselves that shape-shifting is possible, and they might do it and not even believe it still, but if you take a bunch of magic mushrooms, psychedelic mushrooms, and stare in the mirror, I guarantee you're going to see some shit.
Well, it's, Guns N' Roses wrote about it back in the 90s. Use your illusion. If you're going to do drugs just to do them, okay, fair enough. I did it back in the day too. But why not use your illusion? You're traversing to these higher dimensional realms through psychotropic substances, whatever. Why not use it to help expand your mind instead of just sitting there on the couch, wasting away? But yeah, absolutely. Ayahuasca, microdosing mushrooms, etc. It doesn't just have to be about somebody killing brain cells. It should be about expansion of the body, mind, and the spirit.
Love the Guns N' Roses reference, by the way. That Axl Rose, he's really something, huh?
Right. Yeah. So, but yeah, anyway, I mean, I used to trip a lot of acid back in the day.
Oh, okay.
And I would write poetry.
Cool.
I wrote some award-winning poetry, and it was some of the best poetry. And I was like, I haven't done it in 30 years, but I mean, back in the day, I loved it. And I wrote some just incredible poetry that is better than a lot of the poetry that I can even write to this day.
It does seem to really unlock something, in my opinion. I don't know what it is that it's unlocking, but something that's kept from us, and maybe it's kept from us by these reptilian forces or this matrix of evil, who knows, but psychedelics seem to trigger something that shows us some light at the end of the tunnel, in my opinion.
I agree. The whole concept about being high, well, am I straight or am I high? Well, if I'm high, well, where am I? I'm not in the third dimension anymore. You'd want to think that you have ascended. Well, if you've ascended, what are you doing with it? Take advantage of being able to be in these higher dimensions and extract the information, because it's there for you, but it's also incredibly important for you to share. It's very important to share loving, benevolent information with others, because we're all in this together and we need each other.
And the thing about these negative aliens and these dark forces, these entities, at least in the case of these reptilian, draconian aliens, it seems that their very physiology or their DNA is playing a big part of this, because they seem to be very bestial, animalistic, aggressive, extremely aggressive, and aggressive to the point of being sadistic. Are these Draconians, are they hardwired to just be huge assholes?
Very, very eloquently put, yes. If you want to go back to the animal kingdom, like an alligator is not going to court another alligator. An alligator is basically just going to take what it wants. And that's basically their mentality. It's more of an animalistic mentality, where they don't really have so much. I mean, they do have consciousness, but they don't have empathy at all. Anything that they want, they take. And they don't have any remorse. They don't have any feelings about it. And other researchers that I know, we've talked about this before, is that the whole Draco reptilian agenda, with, our ruling class elites eating fetuses to be part of the Draco reptilian doctrine, to be accepted in that satanic order. They have to do it that way. Otherwise, they're not accepted. Blood, unfortunately, is one of the most powerful currencies. It's a very weak fourth dimensional currency, but it is incredibly powerful. It's full of DNA also. I don't even like to think about it or talk about it, but it is necessary. It does need to be talked about because it's happening all around the country and all around the world. Interestingly enough, the state of Virginia, which borders Washington, D.C., has more missing children cases than any other state, like by 5 or 10 times. Now, why? Because it's right next to Washington, D.C. So all of these Congress people, all of these politicians, all these people that run our country, most of them are white, male, Draco reptilian human hybrids, and they're doing this blood sacrifice to become one with the Draco. And if you don't do it, you're not accepted, and that's it. And that's that. And that's why there's so many missing children in the state of Virginia.
It makes me think of another thing that I've heard and come across, the Aztecs and the Mayans and a lot of those cultures down in Mesoamerica, South America, and all over the world. Of course you're aware of this, but the history on this planet of human sacrifice, it's just so vast, and there's so many that have been doing it. There's got to be something there. There's got to be something that these cultures and these peoples were gaining from doing this act. Why is it so common? But it makes sense what you're saying, that these things, whatever they are, blood seems to they seem to want it. It feeds them. It gets them off. It does something.
And you know what, man, you're on it, brother. I love your research.
Thank you.
But also, it's not like anything has changed. Like 1,000 years ago, even 600-700 years ago, the Maya existed, and then all of a sudden they just vanished. Imagine that. But they did the blood sacrifice, and it was Draco reptilian blood sacrifice rituals to deify the god. And who are the gods? The gods were the extraterrestrials. So it's nothing has changed. Now, I mean, they did it in public forums at the top of pyramids. Now they're hiding and doing it because it's not socially acceptable, and it is murder. Think of a lot of the people that we see on TV that are talking about, this and that and being leaders of our country. Meanwhile, they're having sex with children and killing them and eating them.
That brings up something that I think is like really important about this. You mentioned that I'm well researched, and yeah, that's something that I'm very proud of. But there's a dark side to all of this, because a lot of the information that I'm reading out there, it's actually disinformation or misinformation, and I'm filling my head with a lot of mistruths and a lot of lies and deception, and I often wonder if I'm actually spreading it around.
Well, you know what? Let's say I'm totally wrong about everything I've said. And if I am, then I agree with you, and you seem to agree with me on pretty much everything we've talked about tonight on your show.
Yes.
So now let's go deeper. David Icke and other very prominent researchers that make a living off of this, which is incredibly hard to do, they have the same research. It's not like we're just manifesting this fabrication of reality out of our own psychosis. No, it's coming from other people, but also a lot of it I receive through what I would call downloads. A lot of what I talk about, I don't read. It just comes to me, and then I cross-reference with other researchers who actually do read and do the research on it. And I've had countless psychics, especially living in Sedona, where I worked in a building full of 17 psychics, basically cross-analyze my prognostications, and for the 90+% part of it, they all agree with everything that I say.
Yeah, I think that is an incredibly good point. When you see dots connect, if you can prove something three ways, if you can put the pieces together and they fit, then I really think that you're approaching some kind of truth. And I suppose the way that they tend to get people is these little differences, like, oh, no, they're not reptilians, they're demons, and they're tricking us all. There's no aliens. It's Satan and Lucifer. He's lying to us all, making us think that there's aliens so that we go along with his agenda.
And it's funny because I was out with my girlfriend earlier tonight, and we run into these two ladies, and we just started talking. Next thing you know, we're talking about ghosts and UFOs and stuff. And I told them, I'm like, I usually don't bring this up, but I felt like I could talk to you about it. And this one girl was talking to me about angels and demons. And I said, this is a big misnomer, but a lot of demons and a lot of angels are in effect what you would call extra dimensionals, which means that they are sentient, conscious beings, but they just don't have a physical body in our primitive third dimension. So in effect, they are extraterrestrials. But to us, we just interpret them as spirits. But a lot of what we think are ghosts and spirits are in effect extra dimensionals, which are in effect extraterrestrials.
Have you heard of the Montauk project?
Yeah.
That particular, I don't even know what you would call it, story, it seems like there's a lot of people that, like you were talking about earlier, there's a lot of people that agree on what happened. It's hard to believe that however many guys and women that have experienced the Montauk project, it's hard for me to believe that they're all in cahoots and they were all in some treehouse somewhere coming up with this stuff and coming up with this big lie to sell books from. That does not add up.
No, and I would agree with you totally. Genetic manipulation and experimentation is a very, very, very old science. And that, to me, is what it's all based on. And you of course heard of the Montauk Monster.
What's the Montauk Monster?
It's this, I don't know, it's maybe a foot and a half long. It looks like a dog, but it also looks like it swims in the ocean. It was a genetic experiment that washed up on shore. If it was even true, it could be just a fake photograph. I don't know. But they're doing all kinds of genetic experimentation, and it's not even an experiment anymore. It's a program. And a lot of us are a part of it, and we don't even know it.
And what disturbs me about that is, in the Montauk project and also Pizzagate and these situations you're talking about, there seems to be this repeated thing that going after children, molesting kids, traumatic abuse, traumatic satanic abuse, alter programming, stuff like that. It's so disturbing to me because in movies and science fiction stuff, TV shows, the aliens are bad, yes, but usually they just want to take us over. But it seems like in real life, they're a lot more evil than that. They're freaking molesting and killing and eating children.
They are. And, I can't even wrap my head around it, but that's the Draco Reptilian agenda. and it's very, very firmly in place. And, I don't see anything changing anytime soon, unfortunately. I hope I'm wrong about that. But it's very powerful, and unfortunately, our planet is morphing from one dimension to another, and the fourth dimension is dark. And that's where we are right now.
My theory, if you want to call it that, is that if you do anything like that to a child, you're too far gone to ever come back. Once they get you to do that, and once you take part in that, you're pretty much evil for good. It's going to take a very long time and a lot of energy, and it's going to take a lot for you to come back to the good side. So that's my theory.
And I would have to agree with you totally. Now, why do they covet children? Because they're virgins, and also when you copulate, your soul literally merges with another soul. So a virgin soul is highly coveted because it's unmolested. It's never been touched before. And that's why they covet children. Also, they want to scare them out of their minds before they actually kill them. And the reason is because their bloodstream gets pumped full of cortisol, which is a stress hormone, and adrenaline. And the Draco, it's like their heroin. When they bite into a child that is full of cortisol and adrenaline, it's like their chocolate. I mean, they just love it more than anything in the world, and it feeds that insatiable thirst for lust, which we can't even explain or wrap our heads around.
Yeah, and again, very disturbing stuff, yet this seems to be the reality that we're dealing with, and somehow the humans and the hybrids, they're very into this as well, and I have to wonder if it's kind of like the, you said this earlier, as above, so below. Perhaps these humans are just mirroring what these reptilian aliens like to do. They're kind of just copying and joining in on it.
They are, and like I was saying, a good analogy is if you want to be a Mason, you have to go through the rituals. You have to do the ceremonies. The Draco are not going to allow you to be part of their A circle unless you basically, molest a child and eat the child. I mean, literally eat the child and drink their blood. And this is extra messed up, is that the Draco don't see anything wrong with it at all. It's part of their life. It's part of their culture. It's what they do. And to them, they're not going to burn in hell for it. It actually, in their minds, it makes them stronger.
And there's people out there that they're very, like the way that we're into aliens and stuff like that. There's people that have dedicated their lives to stopping the pedophilia and the networks of pedophiles out there. But to me, it looks a little foolish to me because they don't even really know what's going on. This goes way deeper than that, way deeper.
It does, and it has gone on for a long time. It's not like it just started a few hundred years ago. It's been going on for a very long time, and so if you think about it, so there's this council. Otherwise, we would all be slaves. But there's this galactic council. There's multiple galactic councils that govern this planet. So why would they allow this to happen to our planet? I've heard that question a lot, and it's because we're going through the cyclical cycle of this planet. You have to have dark to have the light. You have to have light to have the dark. And unfortunately, that's where we are right now. But it does not mean that our own God-loving collective consciousness cannot, transcend this whole curve and get us back into the light so that we basically jump through the fourth into the fifth dimension.
And the fourth dimension seems like a very... some people compare it to the astral plane, and it's a place where things are a little bit more malleable and more fluid. But the fifth dimension really puzzles me. I know the reptilians are in the fourth dimension, but what's the fifth dimension? What's up there? What's going on there?
The fifth dimension is a dimension of light and love. But you can't get from 3 to 5 without going through 4. And I hate to even reiterate it again, but that's where we are. And that's why we're in this current state of affairs, which is something you wanted to talk about. And trust you me, I don't have all the answers, but I believe I have half a clue. But a lot of ascended masters that I work with on a conscious and subconscious meditative level are fifth dimensional Pleiadians. For example, Moroni, who is basically the demigod of the Mormons. He's a Pleiadian. He came to Earth back in 1823 and told Joseph Smith that he used to be an Earthling, and then through reincarnation, he now comes from the Pleiades. And he said there are many, many, many beings like him that are light workers, and they go to fledgling planets like us to act as God figures to bring us into a higher state of consciousness. And I can't prove this, but I do believe that Jesus Christ was also a fifth dimensional Pleiadian brought here to usher in a whole concept of love and light also.
And this is something that I definitely want to find out about, this ability that you have to channel. You said that you're a medium. How did this start? Was it childhood, early adulthood? Did you hit 30 when it happened? Can you tell me how this began and how you became aware that psychic abilities were real?
My mom. It all started when I was 5 years old. Anyway, my mom taught me how to see angels when I was a child, and it just grew and it grew and it grew. And then I started getting abducted. Actually, I told you I was abducted while my mom was pregnant with me back in 1969. But I believe that this was part of my contract I have with the universal God consciousness, that I had to go through these experiences. Number one, for me to grow closer to the universal God consciousness, but even more important than me and my personal growth was to help other people that are going through similar experiences.
And so, have you ever spoken to spirits?
Yeah, every day.
Oh, I guess I should be more specific, because spirit can be many things. Have you spoken to dead people?
I have. I work with an archangel named Azrael, and Azrael is known as the spirit of the dead, and which is really a mistranslation. What it actually means is that Azrael helps you once you have passed to find loved ones on the other side. Oh. So what happens to me is what you would call earthbounders. They die, they're stuck in between dimensions, and they're too dense. They're not vibrating at a high enough frequency to be able to transcend from one dimension to another. So they're what you call earthbounders. And they will find me because they know I can help them cross over. And here's a perfect example. One of my best friends I grew up with in Daytona Beach, his parents died 8 and 9 years ago, respectively. They both died of alcoholism. So first his mother died, and then almost exactly a calendar year later, his stepdad died. And a couple years removed, they both came to me as earthbounders, and they wanted me to help them cross over. And so whenever I'm in that situation, I pray and I meditate. And I was told I cannot help them cross over because, in effect, they committed suicide. They were trying to basically cheat life through death and not have to face life. So, unfortunately for them, they're going to be stuck as earthbounders for much longer than they want. And one thing I also learned a long time ago is that spirits have emotions and spirits have feelings. They absolutely do. So just because they don't have a physical body, they don't eat or drink water, they don't go to the bathroom anymore, but they very much have a consciousness, and they very much go through emotions. And, imagine this: one of your best friend's parents that have died come to you and want you to help them go to the godlight, and you can't do it because they were trying to cheat life through death.
That is a very complex subject. My God.
We're just starting to get deep, but yes.
So I take it then you have a pretty firm belief in past lives?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Do you remember any of yours?
I do. I can remember. I can remember being in a wagon train back when we were settling the United States, and this is really messed up. But I can remember being with a woman, and I was not good to her at all. I was physically and perhaps even sexually abusive to her. And when she died, she basically told me that she was going to haunt me. And she does. But yeah, I can vividly remember it. The wagon train days, sleeping out on the land, hearing the crickets, having no blankets, sleeping on rocks for pillows. I mean, I can definitely feel it and remember it just like it was yesterday.
A listener out there says that he is hearing EVPs on the broadcast. Don't ask me. That's what he says.
I wouldn't doubt it. When, and we've all done podcasts where you start talking about very sensitive, energetic material, and then all of a sudden, some kind of anomalous activity will happen, some kind of electronic interference. The podcast may even just snap and break. These things are very common.
Oh, yeah. I know what you're talking about. I've had my broadcast shut down about 4 times and just all kinds of weird stuff going on. It's exactly like you say.
Yeah, and it's very real, and there is so much powerful energy in the spoken word. There is, and also, if you want to go there, there's spooks out there that are listening to your shows, listening to our shows, and all they have to do is basically hit a button, and then there goes your podcast, or you'll hear some almost like weird ambient background sound that is artificial, or sometimes it will almost sound like people talking. Have you ever run across that before?
Oh, unfortunately, yes. There's been many times where a voice will come on the line, and there's been even times when it sounded a little angry and threatening.
Yeah, it's happened to me. I've been doing podcasts since 2014, and I remember when Pizzagate first started. One of my co-hosts for my show, he wanted to talk about it too much. And I started to catalog when the show would drop out and when I would, experience all kinds of technical difficulties. And you could directly trace it back to what we were talking about. You could directly trace it back, especially when Pizzagate first hit. When it hit the fan, the shite was splattered everywhere. And I went back and listened to my shows, which all of us podcasters should do. And I went and, what were we talking about? At what time signature did the show drop out, or we experienced interference? And it was all based on what we were talking about.
Yeah, similar experience here. It seems like some of the really more taboo subjects seem to cause that to happen. And it's really disturbing because I like to think to myself that what I'm doing is safe. But how about you? Do you feel like you're safe? Do you feel like your name's on a list somewhere? Do you ever feel like your life might be threatened or threatened someday at some point?
Well, that's why I moved from Sedona. I was literally being abducted by the Miilabs. They were taking me. They were doing anal probes on me. They were doing what you call a coccyx implant, which is implanting a device at the posterior tip of your spine. And this happened to me. This happened to me a number of times, and then there was bleeding associated with it, which really scared me out of my absolute mind, to the point where I couldn't quit bleeding, and I thought I was going to have to go to the hospital. I don't have any kind of medical insurance, but what I do have is this spiritual healer in Sedona. Her name is Thea Ivy, and a little old lady who pencils in her eyebrows, and she calls on ascended masters and archangels to love you and to heal you. And I mean, imagine you're bleeding from your rectum because you got abducted by these Draco Reptilian Miilabs operatives. Okay. And, blood running down your leg, you're freaking out. I'm about to go to the hospital without insurance to get it fixed. And I'm like, no, I'm going to go to Thea Ivy and, lay on her massage table. And I ask her, I'm not being weird, Thea, but just touch me on my crown, touch me on my third eye, touch my heart, and heal me. And this woman was able to put me back together again to the point where I was not bleeding anymore. But it scared me so bad, and I had never been scared like that before. And it's been happening to me for a long time, that I literally moved from Sedona, Arizona, which is an absolute hot spot for UFOs. No wonder they were all over me. I've got military issue night vision goggles. I'm an ET UFO magnet. I'm creating all kinds of activity around me. Black Ops helicopters are flying very, very low. Apaches are flying low over my house, making it abundantly clear that they know exactly who I am, what's going on. I'm all over their radar. And it literally scared me moving back to Florida.
Yeah, I mean, after my one big UFO experience where the thing actually got close, it was followed up by a stereotypical black helicopter searching around for it or coming and checking me out, just circling around the general area, just one of them, but it seemed to be very interested in what was going on.
Yeah, and so let me take a step backwards. Is most of my UFO ET experiences, very much the most part, have been totally positive. Totally positive. When I moved to Sedona, there's this dark element there. So think about it. It's perhaps one of, if not the hottest spots for UFO activity in North America. So if I am the Black Ops, Miilabs government, why would I not have a permanent base there? Why would I not? And then the people that Sedona draws, the people that it draws are, psychics, mediums, healers, UFO experiencers, contactees, etc. If I am the Miilabs, I would have a permanent base there, and I would be looking for people just like me. So it was easy pickings for them to find somebody like me because the whole place is full of people like me there.
Yeah, it definitely helps to be around people that won't treat you like you're out of your mind.
No, and so, I wrote a book called Yahweh, the Biblical God is an Alien. Okay. In Florida, that book is not accepted at all. Out there, everybody's like, well, yeah, we know. I mean, it wasn't even like it was news. I had the gall to title a book, Yahweh, the Biblical God is an Alien. But in Florida, I'd be burned at the stake, if this got into certain people's hands. But in Sedona, it was totally accepted and everybody got it.
One thing that, just to backtrack a little bit, this is a subject that nobody really wants to talk about because it's kind of weird and it's kind of embarrassing, but and so many different alien abduction, Miilabs, things like that, they seem to target the anus. And a lot of people think it's a form of sexual assault. Me personally, I feel like it has something to do with the base chakra. Aleister Crowley would talk about the same thing. I think it has something to do with your base chakra and the source of your energy, where your kundalini and your chi and all of your energy starts.
And man, you're nailing it, brother. I would have to totally agree with you on that also. So, let's go through the colors of the chakras. Your crown is violet. Your third eye is indigo. Your throat is blue. Your heart is green. Your solar plexus is yellow. Below your belly button is your sacral, which is orange, and your root is red. And your root deals with grounding. Okay, so if they want to unground you, that's the perfect place to start. And what does chakra mean? Chakra is an ancient India Vedic term for wheel. And if they can get that wheel to stop turning, then it thwarts your ability to send and receive energy through your root chakra. So yeah, and also I'm a Reiki Master instructor, and there's what you call the Hu Yin, and I don't know if you know what that means, but there's your governor channel and your functional channel. And basically what happens is from your root or your butt up to your crown, imagine a half a circle going from the front of you around to the back of you. And it comes in and out of your crown and in and out of your root. This whole spinning cyclical cycle of Kundalini energy spinning in a vortex around you is completely stopped if that wheel is stopped. And that's definitely a part of it. And also the tip of your spine is there. So I agree with you. I don't think it's sexual, although it may have, I don't know. But for me personally, I believe it was all about their attempts to do mind control on me.
Do you feel that you've been programmed?
If I've been programmed to fight against them. So, it's almost like, I allow their feeble attempts to try to manipulate me, and they're met with failure. And I believe that is kind of like a modus operandi for them to keep trying. But, I know some incredibly powerful spiritual healers that can actually remove the psychological implants, which are not physical devices. And then there's others which are psychological implants, which it's almost like you're sleeping and then they can pull your soul out of you sideways while you're sleeping. They can implant like an artificial, like an AI kind of implant inside you. It comes back into your soul, and it can actually dictate your behavior and your thought patterns. But the most important thing is, if you know this is happening to you, to be wise to it. And if you know that it's happening to you and you know that you're wise to it, you can basically stop them in their tracks. And it really frustrates them, and it makes them want to try more.
Do you ever experience any high-pitched ear ringing?
Yes.
Uh-oh.
God. Daniel, you are just nailing me, man. You're nailing it, brother.
Well,
yes.
Hey, I'm not going to say that I know what it is. I just experienced it myself, and I know many, many others that are having the same issue.
When it happens, usually, not always, but usually I know I'm going to receive some kind of visitation when it happens.
I have heard similar things as well. Yeah, I don't have that particular experience, but it seems to be doing something. It happens at key times, and there's times when it's very loud as well.
Yeah, and it's interesting is that I can usually tell when something's going to happen. Not always, but usually. And there's often some kind of pitch associated with it, and it's almost like I have some kind of dog hearing. Like your normal human wouldn't be able to hear it. They could be in the same room with me at the same time. They wouldn't hear anything, but I would hear it. And I'm hearing it right now. I mean, now that you mention it, I'm hearing it right now.
Yeah, it's happened to me. I mean, I'm not hearing it at the moment, but it's happened to me while I've been sitting here in this exact spot with these headphones on, talking to various guests. They've hit me, whoever they are.
And often it's based on what you're talking about with your guests. You know, we're conjuring up all kinds of spiritual energy by what we're talking about right now, and it attracts attention. You know, so at any given time, there are ETs and higher dimensional beings that are drawn to the energy that we invoke by the spoken word and the content of what we're saying. So, yeah, it's very real, and it's happening all around us all the time, even if we don't know it.
In the prospect of it, it's very scary because even if you look in the human world, there's all these patents out there that are for mind manipulation machines, whether they're using microwave energy, radio frequencies, or even much more advanced techniques such as ELF waves and things like that. I mean, there's so much out there. I don't even know it all. I don't even pretend to, but there's so much out there that we can actually prove that there's paper trails on.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Daniel, can I take a 2-minute break and I'll be right back? Is that possible?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll go ahead and turn my mic down and turn some music on, and I'm going to go take a leak myself.
All right, that's exactly what I need to do. All right, I'll be right back.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, break. Hello?
Hey.
Hey, you ready to get back into it?
Yeah, man. Hey, I'm falling out, but how long do you want to go?
It's up to you. Do you think you got another 15 minutes in you?
Yes, I do.
Can we do 20?
Yes.
Okay, let's do 20. All right, welcome back, everybody, to End of Days Radio. We are sitting here with the Reverend John Polk, talking about all kinds of fascinating things, from Miilabs to chemtrails to the Mark of the Beast to the portals going on inside of the inner hollow earth. John, are you still there?
Yes, I am.
And I did want to ask you a little bit more about these Miilabs situations. Is it true that there's a bunch of cloning going on?
Yes, absolutely. Like I was saying before, it's not an experiment, it's a program. It's going on here, but it's used to also clone and populate other celestial bodies throughout the cosmos.
So there's planets out there that have a similar situation that's going on here.
Yeah, so, individuals like myself and others that have been taken, I have to think that there are others like me on many, many Earth-like planets throughout the cosmos. My clones, but also if you can take one healthy cell from a human, you can clone it up to, and it's debatable, but up to about 10,000 times before it starts to lose its resolution. So before you end up making a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy, one healthy cell can be used to populate many, many worlds. And that's a big reason why there's so many cow mutilations also, where the cow, the carcass will be found on the earth. There's no blood. Animals like coyotes will not even touch it because they just sense something is totally wrong with it. They take out organs like the eyes and the tongue and the udders and the anus and different reproductive organs. Now, why would they do that? Why? Well, if you think about it, 1/3 of all food on this planet comes from cows, whether it's steak, beef, hamburgers, milk, which turns into cheese. So if cows are used on this planet, why would they not be used on other planets all throughout the cosmos? So cloning, it's not just done on humans, but it's done on animals too.
how about the Greys? I've heard that they might be either clones or some sort of robotic creatures, or half and half. Do you happen to know what the Greys are?
I think you're right about everything, that they're all of the above. So there are some Greys that actually have a soul. But a lot of them are also what you could call EBEs, or extraterrestrial biological entities, which are manufactured beings in perhaps a lab. They're in effect drones. They're not human. I'm sorry, they're not human. They're not sentient beings, but they're more robotic. And yeah, very much so. But all of the above. There's some that have souls, and then there are that many more that are just drones that were manufactured in a lab by ETs, mostly for these hybridization harvesting programs.
It occurred to me that probably the biggest reason why people are dealing with the Greys is, like you said earlier, a lot of these beings, maybe they're more like spiritual beings or extra-dimensional, or they don't have a physical body. They need some way to interact with us. They need something to hold tools and actually be able to do the surgeries and stuff on us.
Yeah, thus they need a physical body. Yeah, and often in those situations, there's a praying mantis that is actually overseeing everything, doesn't really do anything. However, it's doing everything. Like, it's guiding these drones without some kind of handheld technological device. They're so evolved that they can literally command these basically robot drones with their minds and exact these hybridization programs. So this hybridization program that's going on our planet is being used to spawn life in so many other dimensions and planets that we can't even wrap our heads around it.
Well, hey, I'm glad that you brought that up, because that is something that strikes very close to home. Before I ever knew what aliens were or had any clue, when I was a very small child, my mother was abducted by a group of Greys, and they, just like you said, they had a mantis overseeing the whole operation. And this was before me or us or anybody had any clue. Nope, I can't. This was before anybody had any clue about this sort of stuff. There was literally a mantis alien that abducted my mother and had these gray aliens perform some kind of procedure on her. And there's no way that I could have, that either of us could be lying and then talking to you and that same information. That's impossible.
Well, and then now I'm digging into your story, and so think about this. You are so drawn to this material. Why? Well, I mean, it goes back to your family. My mom was abducted. One of my mom's brothers was abducted. And it goes in family lines. And there's something within your genetics, within your family line, that is valuable to them. Otherwise, they would have abducted somebody else. Who do they abduct the most? They abduct people who have more of an alien bloodline in them than other people. We all have alien bloodlines within us. People will say that only Rh negative is the most prevalent bloodline for extraterrestrial human hybrids, but I say that's totally wrong, that all bloodlines are in effect extraterrestrial bloodlines. Rh negative might be more prevalent than others, but your genetics were highly coveted because you have more of an alien bloodline than most other people. Same thing with me. That's why your mother was taken. That's why you're so drawn to this material. Otherwise, you'd be doing a podcast on sports or something else. But no, this is what interests you the most, and it goes back to your genetics and your bloodline.
And caller, I do apologize. I'm having trouble getting you on the line. I'm not sure what the problem is. Some kind of technical difficulty. It's not allowing me to add you to the conversation, so I'm very sorry, but it looks like I won't be able to take your call. Please try again at another time. John, thank you so much for sharing this information, but I did want to ask you a little bit more. Earlier, you did talk about having a mission on this planet and being given a mission from some sort of God source or something like that. Could you please elaborate that on just a little bit? Do we all have a mission? Do I have a mission?
I think that's depends on the individual. So I can either have a preordained, predestined mission, or I can manifest my own mission within myself. But I believe that I've been on this path because, number one, I chose to do it before I was born. It was part of my contract. But also I believe that it's overly important for me to help other people that are in these same situations. For example, for whatever reason, I end up talking to a lot of ex-military veterans that, some of their stories will just blow your absolute mind. And I will just sit back and listen to them. And I was talking to one last night, and he was like, it is so refreshing to tell this to somebody who's not going to sit there and look down the end of their nose at me with some kind of cynical attitude, like I, need to go to some kind of doctor. I really feel like it's a duty and a responsibility of mine to help other people because I know that I can.
And you consider yourself somewhat of a healer, right?
I'm a Reiki Master instructor. Am I a healer? Well, let's say that I'm a channel for the universal God consciousness, and that God flows through me just like God flows through all of us. I do have some specific training, but am I the healer? No, God heals through me. I'm really just an instrument.
Do you believe in possession?
I do. It's very real. One thing that we don't realize is that we are all possessed. We just don't know it. Not all of the thoughts that we think are our own. A lot of the thoughts that we think we're receiving from an angelic realm, from extra dimensionals, from extraterrestrials. It is very, very simple for higher dimensional beings to channel thoughts and feelings and emotions through us, and we don't even understand it. So the more you think about it, if you talk to people long enough, they will say, well, that one time, something just popped into my head. Well, what was it? Where'd it come from? Was it your mind manufacturing those thoughts, or was it some kind of other sentient being placing those thoughts in your mind?
Yeah, that's something that I've had difficulty with myself. I consider myself to be a medium or a telepath or something like that, and sometimes I get transmissions and I don't know where they're coming from. Could be an angel, could be a demon, could be a dead person, could be my own crazy whacked out mind. Who knows?
And I agree with you completely. So, like I was saying, not all the thoughts that we think are our own. And so when I was working in Sedona as a medium, one thing I would ask people, I would say, who is your most powerful and influential guardian angel? And always, everybody would pause for a second and have to think about it. And, people would say, oh, it's my grandmother, or it's, this angel or that angel. And I was never going to tell them they were wrong. But one thing I would tell them is I would say, if you feel that to be true, I'm positive that you're right about it. But guess what? One of the most influential and powerful guardian angels in your life is you. It's you in a higher dimension. We don't just exist in the third dimension. We exist in all dimensions simultaneously. therefore so does our soul. And since our soul is what you would call your God self, which is the part of the universal God consciousness that he lends to us for this particular incarnation in this physical body, since God is omnipotent, so is our soul. And since we have a God self, our soul, that means a part of us exists in all dimensional planes simultaneously also. So our higher self, in effect, is one of our guardian angels. Our third dimensional self doesn't know very much about our higher self, but our higher self knows all about us in the lower dimensions. So I would teach people to try to, open up a dialogue between you and your higher self, because your higher self has a very vested interest in what happens to you, because it affects your higher self also.
Are the positive aliens, are they ever just going to come down here and kick the crap out of the bad ones?
It's a good question, and I was talking about it before, that unfortunately we're going through this morphing of going from the third into the fourth, of ultimately into the fifth dimension, and we're stuck in a state of transition right now. I do believe that there is a massive benevolent force of extraterrestrials out there. And, it begs the question, if they're there, how come they haven't stopped all the malfeasance on this planet? And I believe it's because they can't. They're not allowed to. That this planet has to go through its own maturation process. And unfortunately, that's what we're going through right now.
I have to wonder, because it's frustrating for me, because I'd hate to ever be without any hope, but these things, they have technology that it looks like magic to us. It's so advanced. Not only that, but they seem to have psychic and metaphysical abilities, like these reptilians, for instance. They can change their density, their shape, and even if they didn't do that, we're talking about something that could be as big as 16 foot tall, that's much stronger, has teeth. I just don't see what chance that we possibly could have, not only in a hand-to-hand fight like Captain Kirk versus the Gorn, but even with our weapons, our nukes, all of them. Nothing we could do could hurt these things. What chance could we possibly have?
Well, look at the current state of affairs. If things aren't going our way, I hate to think that things are just getting worse, and they are. If we could all join hands and bring in and usher in a whole new wave of love that would conquer all this, which I do believe we're capable of, but we're not taught that we even can possibly do it. So as long as we are basically submitting to what's happening, it's going to continue to happen until something really grandiose changes everything.
Is this the end of days? Is it a period of great change and awakening? Is it the end? What do you think about that?
I don't believe it's the end of days. The Mayan calendar said everything was going to end on December 21st, 2012. But what I believe that it was the ending of an old epoch and the beginning of a new one. And that's what we're going through right now. And everything that we've talked about as far as this part of the show is not provable. I can't prove anything either way. But one thing I do believe is it is so important to hold on to some element of positivity. You don't want to succumb to the darkness, otherwise you become a part of it. So know in your mind, your body, mind, and your spirit that you have a sovereign soul, that it cannot be taken over, it cannot be controlled, that we do have free will, and that the most powerful currency in the entire universe is love, and nothing nothing ultimately can conquer love. Unfortunately, the planet needs a whole lot more love right now.
And I would absolutely have to agree on that. John, there's so much that we could talk about, and I have no doubt that we could easily fill another 2 hours. But unfortunately, we're coming to the end of the interview. But one more time, I want to go ahead and let you jump up on that soapbox if you so desire, and say whatever you would like to say to my audience out there. And please feel free to follow that up with anything at all that you would like to plug, anything, social media, upcoming talks, seminars, links, anything at all. Please do so now.
Okay. SanctuaryFL.com. SanctuaryFL.com is the Consciousness 2.0 metaphysical fair in which Brad Olson and I will be speakers at here in Orlando, Florida, out by Disney World. If anybody's interested, you can go to my website, johnpolkmedia.com. That's JOHNPOLK media.com. I have 2 books, Yahweh, the Biblical God is an Alien, and The Blue Beings, Visitation at the UFO Conference, which is a whole other show in itself, in which Travis Walton, most famous abductee in world history, and myself were key witnesses where Blue Beings showed up at a conference. Also, if anybody would like to communicate with me and follow me on social media, please do. Facebook, Marcus Polk, not John Polk or not Reverend John Polk, but on Facebook, Marcus Polk. On Twitter, I have 2 handles, at Reverend Polk, and also my show at QH Matrix, at QH Matrix. And if anybody wants to email me, feel free to do so. My email is jpolk2@cfl.rr.com. That's JPOLK, the number 2, at CFL, like Central Florida, .rr, like Roadrunner.com.
Awesome. And like I said, I think that we very easily could have gone much longer. So, hey, I would love to have you on again one of these days, John.
Absolutely. Daniel, you had incredibly brilliant questions. You and I share many of the same belief systems and great chemistry, and you did a great job. Excellent.
Thank you. And I think the reason why is, hey, this is just my opinion, but it's the truth.
Hey, the truth hurts, but people need to hear it. So I'm glad that we found each other and that I was able to do this show with you tonight.
Absolutely, me as well. And until we have another great meetings of the mind, Reverend John Polk, you have a very good night.
You too. And thanks to all your listeners. Everybody have a great night.
Good night, my friend.
All right, good night.
And there you have it. That was the Reverend John Polk. What a great interview, discussion. Very fun, throwing things back and forth with a very like-minded individual who is well-studied, well-researched, and really has the inside track on what's going on. There's so many different perspectives that we've had on this program, so many great minds, and they keep coming. And I just hope to take away a little grain from each. I try to incorporate a little bit from each, and really the only research that I do these days is I just do the show. I do interviews, and that's how I learn. And for whatever reason, that's just how it works nowadays for me. There was a time when I would sit there and study books. I'd read online for hours and hours, and I still try to do that sometimes. But this is mainly how I do it nowadays. You guys learn as I learn, and I think it ends up being a better show somehow because I put all that energy, all that investigative sort of energy right into the show, and I think it works. So why don't we go ahead and take another break? Those of you listening live, I'm sure that you're super annoyed because we just had a break, but that's how it works. I mean, this is radio. That's how live radio goes. And sometimes things can get a little crazy. Sometimes things can be a little sloppy. Sometimes the Draconians feel the need to interfere. The Draconians. But let's go ahead and take a break. And I will be back. We have so much to talk about here on the End of Days. I will talk to you soon. Hello and welcome back to the end of days. It's me, it's the DAN, the All-American Man. A man with a plan to make you understand exactly what's going on out there in the world. If I even understand myself, it can be pretty hard sometimes to know who the enemy is, to know who to target with all of this built-up rage. I'm very tired. I'm very tired of whatever it is effing with me. I'm tired of the ear ringing. I'm tired of the pains in my chest. I'm tired of getting stabbed with invisible swords. I'm sick of it. I want an enemy that I could punch in the face. I want an enemy that I could fire a big fat Hadoken like Ryu from Street Fighter. I want to shoot a fireball at a Reptilian. It's frustrating, isn't it? We don't even know what we're fighting. Reptilians, Illuminati, demons. There's so many different labels and names and factions. It's the Vatican. No, it's the Jews. No, it's the white man. No, it's the Republicans. No, it's the liberals. It probably is the liberals. I hate liberals. I am a guy that has grown up in the north, in Seattle, a very liberal area. And when I was younger, I was very progressive, liberal thinking. But nowadays, I hate liberals. I hate them. And I know it's stupid. I know it's just divide and conquer stuff, where some people are put on the right and some people are put on the left. But liberals are annoying. You know this is true. You know this is true. You know what? I'm not even going to go there. I don't want to take part in all of the back and forth Twitter trolling, the liberal versus conservative ongoing war, the civil war that is ongoing all the time between the conservative soccer moms with their perfect haircuts and makeup, and the liberals. They seem to go at each other all day long. You know what I'm talking about? Like the middle-aged conservative wife that loves God and apple pie. And hey, those chicks are cool. I mean, nothing against them. I mean, some of them look pretty good. And they'll get on there and they'll say, no, I like being a housewife and I'm pro-gun. Guns, God, and gold. You know, there's people trolling on both sides. For every conservative housewife, you've got a rainbow-haired, multi-dyslexic transsexual. And things like that going on. Not that there's anything wrong with that. If you're a liberal, multicolored, psychotronic transsexual, that's perfectly cool. Everybody has a right to be themselves. I'm not a Republican. I think I'm probably closer to libertarian, if anything. I'm definitely for everybody. I'm for everybody's rights, individuality. I'm pro Second Amendment. I'm pro-abortion. So my views are really mixed. I'm a fence rider, but I'm a fence rider with a big mouth. And my mouth gets bigger and bigger, just like my head gets bigger and bigger. And I'm not talking about getting a big head, like getting a big ego. I mean, my head is actually getting bigger and bigger. Like I wake up in the morning and I measure it, and it's like an inch bigger and an inch bigger. I hope it's a good thing. I hope my brain is growing from doing this show. Like, I think my brain is actually swelling. Every time I get a new bit of information, I get a new wrinkle in my brain. It just keeps like getting bigger. You seen that show Pinky and the Brain? You know, the way that the brain looked with that big old head, and it's like actually like hanging over the front of his face. That's what's happening to me. And I've been wearing a hat, a big foil hat lined with foil to protect me from the psychotronic rays. And it works sometimes, not all the time. But that's my new look. I got a big ass head that's the size of a watermelon, and I've got a huge foil hat on top of it. And you that know me in real life, you know it's true. You know it's true. You know what I look like. There's so much going on in the world today. Oh, I'm pissed. I want to... Whomp, 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 whomp. Whomp, 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 whomp. Whomp. I'm very angry right now. I'm pissed. I am so pissed. And you guys know why? Well, the beautiful and wonderful network known as Fox, F-O-X, they canceled my favorite show. They canceled Lucifer. And I know what you guys are thinking. Daniel, how could Lucifer be your favorite show when you are anti-Luciferian, when you go after these people and you expose them? Why would you watch a show about the devil? Why would you be into that at all? Well, it has nothing to do with the actual devil. It's a show that's based on DC Comics, and there's a character called Lucifer that sometimes interacts with superheroes and other characters in the DC universe, and the show is based on him. And the show is fucking funny, and it's good, and there's a lot of like metaphysical, sort of magical stuff in it, devils and demons and angels and God and stuff like that. And the main character, I think his name is Tom Ellis. The guy's funny as fuck. I mean, this guy should have been playing Doctor Who. He should be the new Doctor Who. This guy is like zany. He's hilarious. And I don't know how many people know about the show. And you know what? I don't give a fuck if you care about this show or not, because you're going to listen and you are going to support this show and you are going to help it get picked up by another network because you love me. And whether you watch the show or not, you love me so much that you're going to help me with this. So do whatever you can. Go on Twitter, hashtag save Lucifer, hashtag pick up Lucifer, and do whatever you can to please help save this show. Because if we can't save this show, someone's going to knock on my door one day, and I'm going to be hanging there from the ceiling with my pants around my ankles. I'm going to be spinning around the ceiling fan with blood dripping down, and everyone's going to cry. So do what I say, or I will kill myself. You don't want that to happen, right? I'm just kidding, but seriously, I'm really out of sorts about this. Don't you hate when people do that? Like you're talking to them and then all of a sudden out of nowhere. Yeah, me too. Also, there's a lot going on the Gaza Strip right now. There's a whole lot going on. Do you guys know what the Gaza Strip is? It's in the Middle East. It's in Israel. ISIS. Ra-el. Is it real? Israel? Oh, someone's calling. God, I gotta turn that off on my phone. That's annoying as fuck. Hello?
Hello.
Hey there, buddy.
What's going on, Daniel?
Not much. I'm just chilling, choking the chicken.
I finally got through. I was the guy trying to call on your last guest.
Yeah, there was something wrong with that. I think I messed something up, and I could have picked up on you, but it would have hung up on him, so I kind of got stuck between a rock and a hard place and screwed up.
It's better to hang up on me than hang up on him, because, wow, jeez.
I flipped the coin.
What an incredible show. That's what an incredible... No, please. If it comes down to me or your guest, hang up on me.
I know, Todd, I know. We treat our guests very well here. We roll out the red carpet. We give them wine. We give them crackers. We give them summer sausage.
Fuck, you could hear from me at any time. You know what I'm saying?
Todd, are you mad because I don't bring enough... Are you mad because I don't bring enough female guests on?
Well, it depends on which kind of female guests.
Well, it's like it's all dudes.
I like Annika Nevi.
Oh, yes.
Very cool.
Yeah, I've been...
And a couple others.
Yeah.
Oh, I loved... No, listen. I got to tell you, Audrey, the light bringer, the light woman.
Oh.
If you never get back a hold of her, that'd be a cool show.
Oh, yeah. Ooh. That was a good show.
One more. Even almost like another layer higher was the one that talks to the Manosphenes. Remember the cute blonde girl that was downloading the information and then just oof.
What was her name? April? April something?
April. Oh, God. Elizabeth?
Yeah, April Elizabeth. You got it.
April Elizabeth. God, that was such a cool show.
Yeah, I wonder whatever happened to her.
She read me. She read me, too. She's like, you're downloading something. I see this for you. It was like really weird. I'm like, all right. Download is coming, you know. She didn't say right that second. She just meant in general. Sure enough. So some of your guests, they're transmitting energy over the airwaves or whatever, how you describe it, a wavelength.
Yeah, some of these people have real powers.
What was your guest's name tonight?
Reverend John Polk.
John Polk. Wow, Reverend. I mean, they could marry somebody. Have him at your wedding. Cool guy. Wow, that was pretty wild.
Well, the thing that I like about
the thing
I like about this guest, Todd, is that just that camaraderie. Like so many things right there, like stuff that I've studied, stuff that I believe, and it just reaffirms for me even more that all this crazy stuff going on in my head, it's reality. The things that I'm experiencing, the things that I'm seeing, it's not fantasy land. Other people are experiencing it. This is real. It is real.
Well, yeah, Daniel, like we talked so many times, but I direct you back again to the idea that whatever it is, it's shape-shifting. And it's changing for each person, too, in a lot of cases. John Keel, you're familiar with him.
Yeah, the Mothman prophecies.
Yeah, he goes way back. He's like the first paranormal researcher that was tearing into the shit for real back in like the 50s and putting out books on it. And you wouldn't know unless you found his book. There was a lot of books. There was a lot of bad ghost and UFO books back then, but John Keel was revealing a lot of stuff a long time ago. And one of the things very first one person that said it was he called the aliens ultra-terrestrials.
Yeah, it's very spooky stuff. I think that
the reason he called them ultra-terrestrials, the reason he called them ultra-terrestrials is because he couldn't explain what they were. But they were earthbound. They weren't aliens. They were more like super earthlings.
Well, that's because, Todd, that's because the Earth is flat and there is no space and there's no planets. So they must be just from underground or from the air itself. They must just be coming from another dimension.
Well, you have all that lore about the underground caverns where creatures exist underground. H.G. Wells' Time Machine had the underground dwellers controlling the humans up above unawares.
That guy was on to something. He knew some shit.
I forget what he called the creatures that were
the mongrels or the mongoloids,
something.
Yeah.
I forget.
Molochs.
But what was it?
The Molochs? The monkeys? The
Morlocks. Right on, Daniel. Thanks for chasing us down that thread. They called them the Morlocks. And the people up above had been so brainwashed, the humans, that they didn't realize they were being controlled by the Morlocks underground. They never ever saw the Morlocks. The humans up above, they just lived a nice, peaceful life. Do you remember the Time Machine?
Yeah,
I
and
think it was the
again,
time
a guy that's really tapping into something, because now we know that not only is time non-linear, but it is possible to travel through time and change the past and change the future, and aliens do it, and humans from the future and other timelines do it. So it was very real what he was writing about.
Well, scientists now are saying at the heights of science, quantum physics, it's a fact that strange things happen at a spooky distance, and they can't explain the interconnectedness of things, synchronicities, and that anything's possible. Notice how science now is saying anything's possible. Quantum physics, in quantum physics, other dimensions, other universes, parallel. Notice how modern science sounds like 200-year-old magicians.
Yeah, that's very true. And what's really crazy about that is that the exact same thing may have happened in the past, where this Atlantean civilization, they blew it up. They blew it up just like they're going to do to us in modern times. They destroyed the entire civilization because they were messing with some forces that they could not control.
When I was young, I haunted bookstores, and I found a lot of books on Atlantis. It's a pretty romantic mythology, to read. There was a lot of books that took license with the idea, and fantastical books. Some cults claim that they're descended from Atlantis, like ones in California, like the new modern day groups of Rosicrucians.
Yeah.
Their mythology goes back to Atlantis. They have all these writings.
Yeah, the Rosicrucians are really into Atlantis. That's kind of their thing.
Totally. It goes back to Blavatsky, Madame Blavatsky. Her books describe this ancient history that we never were told, because the books exist over in the Himalayas, Daniel, with the masters. That was kind of the story. The masters had the wisdom, the knowledge, but there were other books and stuff, and she pieced together, Blavatsky, a history that we weren't told in her books. Isis Unveiled, and the hidden doctrine.
Oh, yes.
Blavatsky.
Yeah, there's some really crazy stuff that she wrote about, and by crazy, I'm not saying that it's not true or it's not accurate, but she wrote about these root races.
Yeah.
And she talked about how all these different peoples that exist nowadays, they kind of descended from these races, and a lot of them came and went. Like, they came and they destroyed themselves. They went through some kind of spiritual transgressions, and then they were erased. And there was even a root race that basically looked like starfish walking around with one big eyeball.
Whoa, that's weird. I don't quite remember that part, but anything's possible.
But doesn't that almost sound like some Lovecraft type stuff?
That's totally Lovecraftian. Alien frickin' things that exist that you can't even imagine that that's somebody, That's how weird it is. On that subject, Blavatsky. So there's this Germanic, Daniel, movement with Blavatsky and secret societies of magical groups in that time period, and they're connected in Germany, France, England, in the 1800s. Can you picture it?
Oh yeah, I mean, part of the magic is taking other people's money.
But then they have lodges they're opening everywhere. We can take people's money. but Daniel, if you put on a show, you give them something worth their money, did they get ripped off?
Well, I heard
In
Blavatsky.
in the cases of the old lodges back in Germany and France that were practicing magic and bringing in members, at times it was more secret, and at other times they were bringing in more members. It depending on what period of the world that was going on with these magical groups. And I guess that's my point. My point here.
Well, there was a real quick. Hey, Todd, real quick about Blavatsky. This is just a side note. I'm not taking another direction, but she would actually do both. She would use a form of stage magic as well as actual real magic, and she could actually make things manifest. Like she would make a candle, a big set of candles, just like appear out of thin air. She could do stuff like that, and most likely she was doing both, like sleight of hand stuff and also like real actual magical practices.
Oh, that's cool. I'm not like an expert on Blavatsky, but I did read a couple of her books because I wanted to understand where the magical ideas were coming out of, for the Golden Dawn and the other groups that were influenced and being influenced at the time by, back in the day, I was a real geek on the Golden Dawn and Blavatsky and Israel Regardie and where the magical groups were getting their ideas and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an expert either. I mean, a lot of this stuff, it's just so vast. You could spend lifetimes learning it all. But that's the Blavatsky thing. That's a major part of this. She really had a massive impact on our entire world and just changed the world. Probably one of the most powerful women that has ever existed on this planet, yet she doesn't really get that respect that she probably deserves.
She gets it in the magical fraternities. From the magical community, they recognize Blavatsky. Most of the Western magical traditions, known science and traditions, comes from Blavatsky, the Golden Dawn, those early magicians. I mean, John Dee, go through that period and move it forward.
Yeah.
If you look closely, though, Daniel, you can see it looks like intelligence operations. Early intelligence operations. Look closer.
Yeah. I think that there's a link.
How would they get the money to produce the books, to spread the knowledge, to get the lodges, to have support?
Yeah, absolutely.
Nobody goes out and protests for no reason or does something unless there's something in it.
Yeah, there's also the fact that went on back then, and it still happens now because it's the same thing. The magical occult world is linked right into the intelligence world, the spine networks, and all that stuff.
Yeah, always keep that in mind. That was one thing Bill Cooper kind of made you aware of is, man, these spy groups are all involved in the magic and whatever else is going on.
I'm sick of it, though. I'm sick of their damn mind games and their control and their secrets and their secret handshakes and their secret deals. It pisses me off. Go ahead.
I know, Daniel. It makes you motherfucking mad because you paid for it.
I paid for them to fuck those goats.
Fuck those goats. Try to kill those goats. Their mind.
No, Todd, this brings up something that I was watching the other day. I know we're talking about Blavatsky and stuff like that, but I was watching one of those old Alex Jones videos, and I was watching the one where he's talking to like a real reporter on one of those news stations, and he's talking about Bohemian Grove, and he's talking about how they're having gay sex. They're having gay sex. They're gay. They're a bunch of... I mean, there's nothing wrong with being gay, but these are our leaders, and they're pretending to not be, and they're going to this big gathering at Bohemian Grove, and they're fucking each other in the ass, and they're doing it to the help, too, the servants, and there's no women allowed in the whole premises.
So Jones is saying that on some show or TV show or his show?
He was actually on, like, it's on YouTube, you can find it, it's It's a homosexual.
I've heard him talk about it all.
Yeah.
I mean, many times over the years.
So go to
is
YouTube.
That your point that he said that?
Go to
no,
YouTube.
Go to YouTube.
Yeah, go to YouTube and look up Bohemian Grove gay sex rituals.
Yeah.
And click on the one that has Alex Jones in it.
If that won't put you on a weird list.
Yeah.
Bohemian Grove gay sex rituals. I want to know all about it.
But it's creepy. I mean, what are they doing? These are grown adult men. They're gathering in the woods in California. They're worshiping a giant devil horn statue, and they're banging each other in the anus.
That sounds horrible. Especially because they're Republican.
That's very non-conservative.
Oh, no. If it was Rand Paul, he's a good-looking man. He's got the curls. No, I'm teasing. I love Rand Paul.
Awesome. Walter Cronkite, he's a hottie.
No, Rand Paul is one of our best favorite politicians, in my opinion. The son of Ron Paul. That's just side note. But yeah, that thing in California, Jones says it's Republican. There's even the things where they say Nixon didn't like it. He didn't want to go there because there's a bunch of gay Republicans or something running around doing stuff.
Nixon was actually normal, it turns out. Nixon was the good one.
He was raised in a Christian household.
Well,
running around naked in the woods worshiping an owl wasn't his thing, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because a lot of people have known about this, and there's even like some old pictures out there, back from like the 60s, and there's a group that meets there every year, a group of hippies, and they actually do a counter ritual outside the gates of Bohemian Grove. It's like they do their own spell to kind of pacify and counteract what the evil, wicked creeps are doing inside of the Bohemian Grove. And they look like some interesting individuals, but power to them. I mean, they're trying to do some good, and who knows, maybe it works. I don't know.
I'm glad there's somebody sitting at the gates of hell, yeah. Spreading some love.
Yeah,
these corrupt
exactly.
Politicians that roll out of there.
But it's tough to sneak in there, and that's why it's...
That's horrible.
A lot of people think Alex Jones is a disinfo guy because he supposedly got this footage out of there, and he doesn't do a very good job explaining why, and then he's got this sarcastic, goofy sort of demeanor about him, and, he comes off as an actor, I think.
I never even heard of Bohemian Grove till Jones.
Probably the same with me.
And I'd looked in conspiracies for a long time, dropped out of it for a while, way back when, and then suddenly Bohemian Grove, that's his, the reason you can trust him, because he's told you they're in there. Well, they're all over. They're probably everywhere. They're not just in Bohemian Grove. Yeah, they're down the street in some mysterious building church. Can't you picture it, Daniel? It's got some kind of Lovecraftian symbol on it, one of those weird churches you drive by where you never seen that symbol before. Some weird building like a Lovecraft story.
Well, it's just... I think that so many people tell me the same thing, Todd. They tell me, Jones got me started. That's how I got into this stuff.
Jones, yeah. Forgot about him.
Yeah, and I totally get that because the same thing kind of happened to me a little bit. I mean, I've been having paranormal experiences since I was a kid, but at least the conspiracy, big banker, what's on the money sort of stuff, Jones played a big part in that. But then as I dug deeper and deeper, I learned about disinformation. I learned about William Cooper. I learned about PSYOPs. I learned about COINTELPRO. And then I put that together with this goofy sort of comedic acting that Jones does and this look that he has on his face like he's saying something but doesn't even really feel that way, or he doesn't have that conviction in his eyes. It's the body language. I've studied body language, so I can see it.
You think you can read body language pretty well?
I'm very good at it.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I can pick up signals. I can read beyond body language, yeah. But That's just my claim.
Oh, I know what
But-
you're talking about, Todd. I know exactly what you're talking about. I have it myself. I know what you mean.
But on Jones,
Yeah, I know it's difficult because I even wonder this myself. I mean, I see his wife on Twitter, and she's like getting mad at him, just like he's a normal, everyday, deadbeat asshole, and that makes me think, no, he is a normal person, and maybe I've just gone so far down the rabbit hole that I think my own shadow is a disinfo agent.
Triangle craft are going to be outside when you take a leak next time. Big giant triangle.
Well, now, see, this goes back to that saying, just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not after you.
Doesn't mean they're not out to get you.
Yeah, I might be paranoid, but I've got good reason to be.
Oh, yeah, you have lots of reason to be paranoid, and not just from the aliens. Your own government has cactuses disguised, microphones that pick up your whole life disguised as cactuses in the middle of the desert.
Yeah, they've got little
drive-by
insects with cameras on them that fly around and take video footage and can just like can get in on there. You're taking a poop and a little mosquito comes up next to you and it's got a camera inside of it and it's filming you take a poop and it's putting it on some evil scat website.
because they're engineering mosquitoes.
No, they're building little robots that look like mosquitoes.
And they're using real insects, too, to do similar stuff.
Yeah, I've heard of that, too. Yeah, that's very
They're
true.
maybe the insects teaching the freaking tiny robots how to be more insect-like. This is how weird it's going to get.
You know what I hope they make?
I told you, Daniel.
I'm hoping they make, like, robots that look like animals, like a robot tiger and a robot lion, but one that can actually transform into, like, a humanoid, just like the Transformers Beast Wars.
Oh, dude. That's, will be possible. But when the day that's possible, you better hope that everything's good in that time period, because if it's bad, that'll be chasing you down.
Well, hey Todd, when you were coming on the line, I was going to get into a pretty deep subject, and I kind of want to know your thoughts on this.
All right.
So this is a topic that makes everybody uncomfortable, and if you don't want to talk about it, I totally understand. But over in Israel, on the Gaza Strip, have you seen any of that return march stuff?
Have I seen what?
The Great Return March, the Palestinians running up against that wall and getting slaughtered by the Israeli soldiers.
Was this taking place today or yesterday?
It's been going on for a few weeks now.
No, I've seen the protests and I've followed the events, yeah. I saw some shit Saturday that kind of turned my stomach when you see the pictures, Ugh.
What was it?
Horrible. As you're looking at the fence, the Israeli fence between them, there's tear gas that's been dropped. Thousands of people are just in the desert, and it looked like some end of the days Armageddon end of the world scene. And then when you hear there's snipers shooting people that are throwing rocks.
Very disturbing.
God. And so, is that how you want to be policed? All you got's rocks and they got frickin' snipers.
Well said, Todd. Well said.
They were doing that at Occupy protests. Somebody filed the Freedom of Information Act, and it came back that the FBI had snipers on Occupy protest leaders and was ordered shoot if necessary. That's the new wonderful world we live in. Daniel, anything's justified now. because guess who the new CIA chief leader might be?
Who?
Gina Haspel, a woman. Finally, a woman heads the CIA, getting lots of backing, but there was a little resistance because she was the head of the torture programs. You know, the torture programs, Daniel, you ever read into that?
Yeah, and you know, Todd, I hate the CIA and I hate the FBI. I think they both suck. They create more messes than they clean up. They're always doing the most evil shit. And they're involved in the JFK assassination, the MLK assassination. They were involved in every dirty thing that this country is known for being involved in. So I say, fuck them. They need to be absolved. They need to be deleted from our government system, and they need to be replaced by something more transparent, more effective, and less shady, evil, deceitful, secretive, and conspiratorial.
I like your new modern world, look on an organization that should exist. But the one that exists is not going to go away and be replaced. It's probably already been replaced. There's shit above the CIA. I think Trump announced that there's a 6th division of the Army now. Remember how there's 5 branches? Trump said last week there's a new 6th division. It's the Space Force. Did you catch that, Daniel?
No.
Yeah. And they're going to start diverting funds from global warming, cooling the global warming bullshit, to finding out if there's life in outer space. That's how cool Trump is.
Yeah, I think that's interesting, but the thing is that Trump, I think we're both pretty big Trump supporters, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't help it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm for the guy. I think he's doing a good job, but if there's just one thing that I don't understand is why is he so into this moving the U.S. embassy to Jerusalem thing? What the heck does that have to do with our country?
I would say, look at Trump's performance overall and the position he's held in this whole maelstrom of bullshit that's world geopolitical, national politics. Look at the position he's held. He's tried to kind of put up some kind of border defense against anyone in the world being brought here and given a lifetime supply of assistance on United States taxpayers' dollars. He's tried to do that. He's tried to bolster the Army. He's done that, for Christ's sake. He brought light to the deep state, the deep shadow government. His very presidency is like a presentation of someone under attack by the shadow government that's telling you, there's a shadow government here. It's attacking me. Look at this, Daniel. It's amazing.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. I think he's doing an amazing job exposing the CIA and the FBI, and it takes a lot of balls to stand up to them. I mean, they're the ones that take out presidents, and he's pretty much just getting in their faces.
That could be a fucking psyop too. How weird this all is.
Yeah, and you know what bothers me is people say if you support Trump, you're racist, and that really pisses me off because, for one thing, I'm multi ethnic, and I'm multiracial.
Well, I guess you could be. There's all kinds of offshoots and variations of the possible way you could be racist. God. So instead of talking about deep-rooted weird shit, they want to.
Well, hey, Todd, I read a news article and it said 70% of Christians support Israel because they believe that supporting
Oh, yeah.
Israel will bring in the end of days.
Oh yeah, here we go again. Sorry, I sidetracked this.
No
I saw
worries,
those
no worries.
pictures. I saw those pictures. It's pretty. You look at those pictures, and that's what you'll be seeing in the future. In your own country, of the drones coming over. Did you see the pictures of the drones dropping the tear gas?
Yeah, that was disturbing.
Pretty disturbing. And you're behind a fence, too.
Well, I love
With
drones.
rocks.
I love drones. Like, I think they're so cool from a technology standpoint. I have a drone, but mine's just a hobby, simple racing drone. Like, I could probably crash it into a small dog and kill it if I had it going from a long distance really fast. I'd never do that, by the way. But it can't really hurt anybody. But these ones that the military have, that's a different story. These, I think they call them UAVs. And these things have machine guns on them and missiles and things like that. And just one of them could kill hundreds of people. And there's no pilot that could even risk his life and die. These weapons are, there's nothing we could do to stand against them.
What they already have is so potent if you just go look it up. The technology they've developed, the frickin' little tank, frickin' robot drones that'll shoot you from, big guns, tanks.
The only
Big drones that have guns.
Yeah, I've seen those, the little robots, the radio-controlled ones, and DARPA is working on some very advanced drones. They actually have one that just looks like a person, and it just like runs around, and it can shoot a gun, and it looks like something straight out of Terminator.
Yeah. Wait until they have a dog that runs in with a machine gun as a head and just runs around. It's too easy, and you
so this is the
get
future.
away as a human.
This is the future. There's drones flying around, and all the Christians, their wrists are getting microchipped, and they're getting put into camps, FEMA camps, and we're out there running around.
Hang on crosses.
What's that?
Hung on crosses.
Yeah, and we're trying to survive, so we're wandering around the wasteland, and we're gathering supplies, trying to find allies, trying to find places to stash our weapons and the different goods and survival equipment that we find. What do we do? How do we make it? What do we do where do we go from there?
Lots of people wrote books over the years about the end of the world, especially Christians. Hal Lindsey back in the 70s was this Christian writer that wrote some end of days book. I forget what it was called. Hal Lindsey. I forget what it was called.
Yeah,
the end of the world.
Hal Lindsey. I know about that guy. He wrote some very popular books, and I believe he still has a podcast that he does, and he's really old at this point. He's
like 89. I don't know how old he is. I won't venture, but in the 70s, those books were they set off people's imaginations about what it would be like to survive when the Antichrist comes. Because Christians believe the Antichrist can come.
Oh, I believe in the Antichrist. I believe in the Antichrist just like I believe in the regular Christ.
Yeah, I guess there's different factions of Christians. Like, how many numbers, factions? I have no idea.
There's many.
So many. But, there's that idea of the tribulation. The Antichrist comes to get rid of everybody, and the false prophets here, and then the beast is here. And much speculation, especially by Protestant and sects of Christians about the end of the world. Hal Lindsey, what was the name of that book?
Well, I've said this before.
Horrible. That's why.
I've told you this before, but this is my theory that this whole NWO New World Order thing that the Illuminati and the secret societies are setting up, these guys are getting played. They think that they're smart. They think they're gods here on Earth, but they're getting played. They are doing nothing but playing out a plan that has been predestined and handed down to them by higher forces. And once that New World Order is set up and the entire world is united under one government, then we're going to see some kind of Antichrist figure step forward and use the old corrupt systems as an example and use them as a scapegoat and hang them all in front of us, and then he's going to take over and he's going to be Lucifer in the flesh ruling one world government.
Right. Lots of people think that.
You're like, right.
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 And I understand.
No,
why
Todd,
you think that.
I'm glad that you don't believe the same thing as me, because somebody has to keep me anchored in reality.
I understand. I looked at it too and kind of believed it for a moment, but it was only just to realize why. I looked at those passages and seen why they would say that, and a lot of those end of the world Antichrist. Let's go back to Jerusalem and Palestine. I think what's going on there is horrible. Not the embassy being moved to Jerusalem. That's cool that Trump did what's been on the books for 40 years, but no other president dared to do it. So it caused lots of protests, lots of riots. Those people that are there, they're protesters. They're trying to get you to look at the situation. That's why they're there. The ones on the protesting side, not the shooting side.
Well, I've been doing whatever I can to help. I've been retweeting a lot of stuff and bringing it up on the show here and there. I've been trying to help. I mean, I understand there's two sides to this conflict, but to me, it seems plain as day that that's not a fair fight. I mean, obviously, there's kids getting killed, and they have nothing but slingshots, and the other guys have machine guns. There's no logic, reason, or...
If you get hit in the head with the rock and you don't have a helmet on, it could kill you.
Yeah, David and Goliath.
So, and they've been killed, too, by people that are just, like, really good at...
David's out there with his slingshot.
That's why they're shooting them. And it's horrible.
Yeah. I mean...
It's, Daniel, that conflict's been going on so long, dude.
Yeah, but regardless of how long it's been going on, I mean, killing children with machine guns that are just...
That part hasn't been. I mean, like, we're seeing it. Remember when they bulldozed, like, 2,000 people's houses because somebody did something about 2 years ago, and Israel bulldozed, like, 2,000 houses and shooting people? It's pretty horrible.
Yeah, there was
Israel's
girl. Remember that girl that got the American girl? They ran her over with a tank, or not a tank, but a bulldozer.
I didn't see the girl story, but I saw the houses bulldozed and all the people crying. Yeah,
it was years ago.
Sounds like a John Carpenter movie. They Live.
Well, I'm looking
remember
it
that
up
part
right now.
where the tanks roll through the homeless camp?
Oh, I found it. Todd. Her name was Rachel Corey, and she was trying to protest the houses getting bulldozed in the Gaza Strip, and the guy that was riding on the bulldozer, he just ran right over her.
Oh God! Yeah, just horrible.
I'm so fucked. I'm speaking out against Israel. I'm so fucked. I'm gonna get banned from everything.
Well, you're not speaking out against Israel, not the people of Israel.
No, I love them. And all Jewish individuals.
Every country has its own little clique that is doing the power structure.
Yes.
It's playing the global monopoly game. And you're not against the people. You're against the policies. And there's a difference there. And, in the wars, in the big, great wars, these awesome wars.
Hey Todd, we could talk about this all night, but I've had you on for almost an hour now. I gotta go finally. I'm so sorry.
It sounds good. Great show, Daniel. I just thought I'd buzz in on you.
Absolutely. Mind-blowing discussion, my friend. You have a good night.
Oh, yeah. Peace, my man.
And there you have it. That was Todd the Bod. Always good talking to him. He gets on the line here with us, and time just flies by. A lot of interesting things brought up. But I do have some other things I wanted to talk about, so I do need to get to those things before we finish tonight. I do have a letter from a listener. So let me close the window real quick so my neighbors can't hear me. This one's a little weird. Yeah, real professional there, Daniel. Dead air is great for business. Great for business. Good job. Good job. I've been getting like really lazy with that sort of stuff lately. Like, noises happening in the background. Who cares? How many people are out there listening right now? 1,000, 10,000, 100,000. I don't know how many people actually listen to every episode. And part of that is because this show is everywhere. It's on every form of social media. It's on iTunes. It's on Google Play. It's on YouTube. It's everywhere. And it gets a lot of views on all of those different forms of media, but where it's actually reaching, what is the total number, how far it's getting, it's really hard to pinpoint. But I suppose you could say that it's starting to pick up a little. It's becoming a lot more mainstream, and not that it's mainstream or anything close to that, but at least in the paranormal world, paranormal, supernatural, conspiracy world, a lot of people heard of End of Days Radio. And I think you all out there know that that's true. End of Days Radio is a show that has had every guest imaginable on. It's a show that many other hosts of many other shows listen to. It's a show that is innovative. It's a show that changed the game, changed the entire paranormal world, and it's still reverberating out there. It was something that I was on the outside looking in on, and now I wouldn't say I'm in the center of it, but I feel like at least I'm part of it now. And that is an amazing feeling. It really is. The feedback that I get from you listeners out there, when you tell me that you want more, I can't even explain what that does for me. I can't explain it. I can't explain the fire that it ignites inside of my heart and the happiness that it brings into my life, that anybody would actually give a shit about anything that I have to say. I know it's not just me. Obviously, there's some very interesting guests coming on. The guest we had tonight, Reverend John Polk, fantastic. I am so grateful that that guy would give me any of his time, or anybody that comes on here. The greatest minds in the world, the greatest minds in the entire universe are on this show. This is where we blow minds. You're blowing my mind, man. And I think you know what that means. I think you know what that means. It's time. It's time. It's time for the mind-blowing moment of the day. Yeah.
Hello. My name's Danielle. I used to be Daniel, but I'm now a tranny. I'm your new host of this alternative end of days radio.
Okay, enough of that. So today's mind-blowing moment of the day, I'm going to have to say it was when Reverend John Polk, he told us about the physiology of the planet, the way that the planet mirrors the human body. I couldn't agree. United. Don't worry, I'm not going to start turning into the Wolfman and singing on the show all the time. Let's see here. I do have a letter from a listener. I do think these are important as well. We've got some news stories too. I know you guys like long shows with lots of content, lots of juicy, syrupy content, mind-blowing information to turn you on. To turn on your brain, so your head grows like mine and expands outward until you look like the brain from Pinky and the Brain, or the leader from the Incredible Hulk comics. If you're a nerd, you must love this show, because there's all this science and mind-blowing information, all this comic book talk. I'm a nerd. You're a nerd. You're a nerd's nerd. I'm a nerd's nerd. I'm a nerd's nerd. Okay, so Dear Daniel, this is from Tori. Tori spelling? Tori. Okay, Tori. She says, my boyfriend keeps trying to get me to try weird things in bed. How can I keep him from sticking his ghostly wiener where it does not belong? First of all, this is not a what was that show called? Loveline. This is not Loveline. I do not know why you would write me such a dirty sort of letter. That's so strange. I don't really answer those types of questions. And by ghostly wiener, is that because it's End of Days Radio and it's a paranormal podcast and you're making a joke and saying his wiener looks ghostly because his skin is so white and pale? If that's the case, that is pretty funny. It sounds like his wiener is quite ghostly and ghastly and probably thin. But it's you say he's trying to get you to try weird things in bed. That's your business. That's your business. I don't know what kinds of things that you're doing, and I can imagine, but that's your business. And Tori, you don't have to do anything that you don't want to do, plain and simple. I mean, I think that that's very nice that your boyfriend is so into you. I think that you should try to look at the positive of that he's so into whatever he's trying to do to you. God knows. But I don't think that you should do it if you don't want to. That's not right either. That's kind of strange. Maybe you should try it, and then if you don't like it, then break up with him. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. That's your business. This isn't that type of show. I'll be happy to keep trying to answer these questions, but don't expect me to do it in any sort of educated or authoritative capacity. Oh, shit. Tori. Oh, man, I got a lot of stuff here. How much time do we have? Oh, that's right. It's my show, and I can do it for as long as I want. We have all the time in the world. But I don't want to keep going too late tonight. I did work today. I do work a day job. I'm not a full-time radio host. I don't get paid to do this. But I do get paid in loosh, or energy. I get paid in the energy that I'm draining from all the listeners out there. I'm just kidding. Calm down. I'm kidding. I know some of you will actually take me seriously, and I'll be sitting at McDonald's one day, and I will be approached by a man in a long trench coat and a long beard who's a long-time listener and is finally sick of my shit. Okay, let's get to the news. Enough of this. So, this comes from BuzzFeed News. It says Twitter is going to limit the visibility of tweets from people behaving badly. Act like a jerk, and Twitter will start limiting how often your tweets show up. Uh-oh. On Tuesday, Twitter announced a massive change to the way its conversations will work, evaluating not just the content of individual tweets, but the way users behave more broadly on the service. Twitter will now use thousands of behavioral signals when filtering search, replies, and algorithmic recommendations. If it believes you are trying to game its system or simply acting like a jerk, it will push your tweets lower down. It's the biggest update so far in the company's push to create healthier conversations, an initiative announced by its CEO Jack Dorsey in March. Among the signals Twitter will use, whether you tweet a large number of accounts you don't follow, how often you're blocked by people you interact with, whether you created many accounts from a single IP address, and whether your account is closely related to others that have violated its terms of service. A lot of our past action has been content-based, and we have been shifting more and more towards conduct and behaviors on the system, Dorsey said in a briefing at the company's San Francisco headquarters on Monday. The push is meant to get out ahead of problems that might normally result in an abuse report under the existing system, and etc., etc. It goes on and on. It says that Twitter, of course, has promised many fixes to its problems in the past and delivered mixed results. It's still far from troll-free, regularly used to spread misinformation. Are they talking about me? And home to legions of identity-stealing crypto scammers. It spent a good portion of 2017 apologizing for its missteps. Really? Like, what is this shit? Come on. Now they're going to take Twitter away from us. And what do I do then? You know how much time I spent building up my Twitter following? And now you want to take it from me? When I go and I troll on Twitter in my eyes wide shut mask, I Twitter about the end of days. And, I'm seeing some stuff now. It seems that there's some drama going on the Dark Matter Network, and there's some very passionate individuals arguing. Apparently, they lost another one of their talents over there. Very depressing. I mean, come on, Art Bell just died. Can't you guys quit with your drama? Your baby mama drama for a week? I remember how we were treated when we were going to go on the Dark Matter Network. Not very nice. And I'm still mad about that. I did not get treated very good. And that was not complimentary towards Art Bell's name. But whatever. It turned out to be a blessing in disguise. And I ended up staying independent. And now there's two End of Days radios. There's Michael's show and there's mine. So there's even more. And we both have our own shows. And both of them are probably better than anything on the Dark Matter Network. So it ended up being a blessing in disguise. But there does seem to be a lot of immaturity that goes on over there. I mean, a lot of ego and power games and people after that seat. And you don't even really need it. You can go on your own and you can do a show on your own and you will do just fine. You do not need anybody. You don't need to make deals with anybody. You don't need to be at anybody's mercy. Nobody can do for you anything that you can't just do on your own. You just learn it day by day and you chip away at it and you make it happen and you keep going. And if you need my help, I'll try. I mean, I only have so much time. I can't be like out there for everybody, but I can give you little hints and point you in the right direction at least. So I'd be happy to help anybody out there that wants to do something similar. I mean, yeah, I only have so much time. I've got like all these projects and stuff going on, but I will definitely do what I can. And I think that anybody out there trying to spread truth is doing a good thing. And you shouldn't fight with other people that are spreading truth, whether it's people on the Dark Matter Network, or people on Belgab, or people on the David Icke Forum, or people on Godlike Productions, or people on Above Top Secret. wherever you are on the internet, Twitter, Facebook, just, I know it's entertaining and it passes the time, but to sit there and argue and have drama over stupid things like ego. Ego is good. It can compel us to do some really interesting things and further the human race's development, but you don't always have to be the center of attention. And I suppose I'm probably not one to talk, but I do see a lot of big egos out there and a lot of people trying to force money out of this, and a lot of people that claim to be spreading truth but probably aren't. I do think that there's people out there that are doing it for the wrong reasons, and you got to do it for the right reasons. It's like on The Bachelor. There's people that are there for the right reasons, and there's people that aren't. I am here for the right reasons. I am. I am here for the right reasons, and I don't get paid anything to do this show, and this show is bigger than most other shows out there, and it's better. It is the best show, period. And no, that's not me being cocky. That's not me having a big ego. That is not me having having a bad attitude or being conceited or anything like that. It is just the truth. The truth is that it is exactly like I say, and it is confidence. There's a difference between cockiness and confidence. I have confidence, and I have confidence because I know what I'm capable of. I've got a great career, and don't tell me that I don't, because I'm me and I know that I do. And I have the best paranormal show out there, and I have a nice guitar, and that's all I need. And if that's what you need to be happy in life, then so be it. I don't need to have the best of everything. I just have to do what I know that I'm here to do. And I worked hard to get where I am at, and I'm proud of it. And maybe that's why I tend to lean a little bit more conservative nowadays, because I'm a hardworking man with a plan, and I've gotten to a certain point, and I didn't go to college, but I bit and I scratched and I climbed and I chipped away at life until it started to work in my favor. And that's a good feeling when you can get to that point. And I don't care if people copy me out there. I don't even care if they do. They can go ahead. They can go ahead and copy away and copy every little thing that I do. And the truth is, I can't do much about that. But it all started here, baby. And everybody out there knows. And there's haters out there, and I love every one of them. Because nothing blows me up more than a hater. Because that's how I know when I see that jealousy out there. That's how I know. If you ain't got no haters, you ain't doing nothing. Remember that. You want haters. You want people to tell you that you can't do it. Why do you think that they're telling you that? Because they don't want you to take their spot. That's why. And you can, and they know it. So fuck what anybody else says. Fuck them and their illusions and delusions of grandeur. Self-important people with no time to waste on you. You got to take it. You got to go out there and take it right now. No more excuses. No more illusions. No more sitting there on your butt, lying to yourself, saying that I coulda, woulda, shoulda. I don't care how old you are. I don't care what you're doing. You better go out there and you better chase your dreams. And if you don't, I will find you. And I am a very scary individual, trust me. You know it's true. I'm an animal. So do it. Go out there and chase your dreams. Do what you have to do. Keep it real. Only you can prevent forest fires. I mean, only you know what your dream is. And everybody has their own mission here on life. Everybody has their own mission here in life. And you got to figure out what that is. And you got to grab it by the horns. And you have a choice. You can succumb to your fear. Or you can take your fear and you can use it. And you can channel it into something very powerful and amazing. And you can go out there and you can take whatever you want. And I don't mean like take whatever you want, like you're doing something negative. I mean you can have whatever you want. The world is yours, like on Scarface. The world is yours. The world is yours. And I don't care if it's the end of days. I don't care if it's 1966 or 1877. It doesn't matter what time it is. This is your life. This is your world. When you wake up, it starts. When you die, it stops. And there's nothing else but you and it. So you better get out there and you better do what you know that you need to do, which is preventing forest fires. Okay, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me here tonight on End of Days Radio. This is the Black Ship sailing into the night. There's a few things we didn't get to, but it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Because we get closer and closer to the edge every time. You and me. You and me riding through this intergalactic Space Federation vessel. Gliding through the vacuum of space as we fly into the heart of a dying star. It comes out a little different every time. I'm sure you noticed that. I love you guys. Seriously, you fans are what it's all about. I don't even care about anything else. I just want to entertain you. I do. I am your fucking goddamn laughing, dancing clown forever and ever. And you never forget that, damn it. I've got some issues, obviously. I've got some issues and I need some tissues. This is the Black Ship. We are gliding into the night. We are headed into the heart of a dying star. Good night, everybody. This is Daniel, and I'm signing out from beautiful, shimmering Seattle, Washington, staring right now into the ocean, into the depths of the ocean. Oh, yes, it feels so good. I'm such a good host, aren't I? My voice is so deep, and I'm so emotional and throaty. I'm good, aren't I? Tell me I'm amazing. Tell me. Seriously, guys, this show is all about you. It's not about me. I'm just sitting here behind this mic, but I'm here to make way. I am here to make way for what's going to come next. And what comes next is you. Because one of these days, they're going to take me out. This hammer is going to get nailed, baby. I only got so much gas in the tank, and I know exactly where I'm at. And I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I don't know how much longer I'm going to be able to do this. And I need you out there. I need you. I need every single one of you. When I fall, two must rise. Let's put it that way. It's the Hydra, baby. Cut off a head, two more grow in its place. That's how this works. If I go, you have to carry the torch. You've got to do it, and you know that. You've got to do it, and you know it. So keep that in mind. And right now, you might think this is some bullshit. And you might think that I'm full of shit. And you might think I'm a giant dork. But you will see. I guarantee it. You will see. And many things are going to come to pass. And there's going to be a time when I'm not here anymore, because they're going to come for me eventually. I'm not saying it's going to be next week. I'm not even saying it's going to be a decade from now, but eventually I'll be up on the hill, and that's going to be it. I'm going to die on a hill holding a flag. But seriously, you guys, you have to carry the flag. You have to carry the torch. You have to keep the candle lit. You have to keep the lamp lit. You got to keep it going. I'm passing the torch to you. You got to do it. You got to pick it up, and you got to do it even bigger and better than I did in the future when all of the game has changed. You got to do it. But I'm going to stop drilling my brainwashing techniques into your mind, and I'm going to let you get back to your life. So, once again, this is Daniel. You guys have a good night.
Fuck yeah.